a few minutes late, but yes, hey, it's saying that we're live and we've got 2 people watching. So cool. Well, this is in the middle of the day on a Friday. I suppose if we do this on a, Thursday morning at 5 a.m., we'll have people tuning in from Europe, but I don't know that we'll get a lot of other folks from the West Coast turning in yet.
Okay, so can you still hear me?
I can.
Fantastic, because I was getting the echo chamber because I was watching the live cast too. So
Ah,
don't want
okay.
to.
Oh, so you are one of the viewers then.
Apparently so. I just left.
Okay. So, hey, so we'd still have at least one real person who's watching us potentially.
Well, that's
So,
great. I'm just really excited to play a game with you and talk about the module because I am not in the sound of drums coterie. I am just a kind of a guy, and I saw the module that they built, and it was a really a perfect module, but it was just like the cardboard game,
right.
and I, I really have this feeling that Vassal's a better experience. And so I wanted to redo the module, and I found out that a fellow named Nicholas Blanchard in Belgium was redoing it. So I
Okay.
contacted him and got involved in the design on that. So a bunch of the things here are mine, a bunch of things are his. And I think we have a better gameplay than the cardboard version overall. Although if you want to play it like a cardboard version, you can. You can put in the same loss markers and the same square markers and everything.
Well, good.
Good.
So
Yeah.
this would probably be a good opportunity since this is our first live stream. Matt, maybe you can introduce yourself to the audience. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can go through some of these interesting things that are in the module, so that way people who might want to play this themselves would know, what options are out there, so that way then they can enjoy those.
Yeah, I think that would be great. My name is Matt Brown, and I am a Vassal developer of about 2 years now. And I started out working on Avalanche Press naval games. So they have two series: Great War at Sea and Second World War at Sea. And I was explaining to Eric, I have bad eyes, so I couldn't play these games. So I needed to put them in Vassal so that I could blow them up and so that I could not have them sitting out and my animals destroying them. And that just seemed like a good move. When I did that, I found something else, and that is finally I had people I could play with because I'm not tied even to a continent. I'm playing many games right now from Australia through to Finland, and it's been great because I live very rural. I'm on a farm out in rural Oregon, and it's a little bit difficult to find people out here that aren't interested in how you smoke a brisket and drinking Coors. So this is really a treat, and I really appreciate the opportunity to play just in general, but especially with you because I know you've got a Napoleonic flair.
There you go.
So I started out with Napoleonic games when I played on Empire rules in miniatures in 1975 and six, and then I went on to La Bataille, and then after college, I kind of got out of war games entirely, and in the last 2 or so years, I've gotten back into them. I was looking for a series to play, and La Bataille, although wonderful, is a little bit daunting. And then I saw people talking about Eylau, and I looked at this, and I've actually done a lot of design and computer work, and the design hooked me instantly. The whiteboard
Right.
for the story area, and then looking at the way that the team has put together the counters.
Hmm.
These are really, really, really brilliant pieces of work. These are amazing user experience design. They give you all of the information you need, and they're not as busy as the La Bataille counters.
Right.
I love the uniforms, but this just trims all that out. And when you listen to Uwe, which you should go listen to one of his interviews. Um, that's really the idea. He wanted to trim this game down to where you're making decisions, which is what he thinks is the fun part. You're not going through the minutia, the chrome. And I think they did a brilliant job of kind of slicing that all away.
Yeah, I really like the look of the game as well, and I like the idea of having a sort of a faster playing, faster paced battalion level game, because as you say, La Bataille, it doesn't matter which rule set you're using, still has a lot of mechanics to it, a lot of die rolls and everything else that and mathematical calculations. You got to crank the odds and this and that and everything else. So yeah, it can be intimidating for folks. And so the idea of something that you could kind of play and it would be a faster playing game was what attracted me to it too. I really enjoyed. I had a interview with Uwe there. I don't know. It's been a year and a half or more ago since he was on the channel, and had a chance to kind of pick his brain about what he's thinking and what his ideas are for it. So I concur. It's a great looking game. My biggest frustration was when it showed up, the rules that were in the box had already been superseded by I think at the time they had version 1.3 that you could download off of Board Game Geek.
Yeah.
And then like looking at and actually trying to go through the rules um, was uh, was a mess, to put it mildly.
Yes, I think you're right. And I think that when you played your game with Michael a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, you kind of touched on it that it might be a bit of a language issue. Uh, Uwe is certainly fluent, but you need to know war game English, not just English.
Yes, yeah,
And it does make a difference. And fortunately or unfortunately, I think war gamers tend to be the most litigious of folks in the world. And in a way, it's genius because you really explore a concept and come to an understanding, God willing, or not. But there's more to the game than are in the rules, even the 1.4 rules.
yeah.
And currently, I know that on Board Game Geek, Uwe has selected two people, both named Mark, confusingly, to be
Okay,
the senior editors. And they are going through all of the questions on the BGG forum, and they are compiling that into a new set of rules that's going to be called 1.5.
okay,
And the idea is that that becomes the final set of rules until they publish Quatre Bras, which is coming up. That's the next version of this.
okay. Interesting.
This, by the way, is a series. This is the first of the
Yes,
series,
yeah, and
and there are,
that's why I was very interested in making sure that I understood the rules because I liked the the look of it and everything else. And if it's going to be a series, then they better have the rules done right. Otherwise, they're going to
yes,
frustrate people. Let's see, we have a
there.
couple of our viewers chiming in. We've got Perry saying hello, and William Arens is saying hello from Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. We've got
Welcome to
John
Canada.
Dietrich saying good afternoon from Cali. And let's see, Stigler is saying it's faster playing only in comparison with Winter's Victory. Yes, I probably would concur with that. Winter's Victory is very daunting. Perry says 1.5. We just got 1.4. Yeah, so I was fairly pleased with 1.4. It fixed a lot of the issues with 1.3 that caused me to pull out what few hairs I have left on my head. Um, Stigler says, I heartily agree that non English publishers should contract with an English language rules editor to write that final version if they value American and British audiences, which they don't have to. Yes. So he's saying they have to do that. Yeah.
I
Let's
I
see.
agree. I think that Uwe is very open to that. And like I say, he's selected two people off of the forum, prolific people off of the BGG forum, who appear to be extremely competent. And they are putting together that rule set and then running it by him, and then that will become the next iteration of the canon, and then that will probably move forward. I don't know whether they're going to have um, errata or separate, they're going to have a set of rules for the overall series or individual rules for each game coming. I think they're planning on one game a year, maybe two. So, and they're open to anything, the most obscure battle to the largest, you know. So I think
Right.
that list is maybe Austerlitz and Borodino and all the others. So
Yeah.
we'll see what comes out.
Yeah. Let's see. We've got Krzysztof Sokolowski saying hello from Warsaw. So hello
Chase.
to you. Yes. Way out in Poland there. Let's see. Stigler says VUCA's 1914 knocked Paris had a few issues, thankfully minor, with rules that were not written by native English speakers and conversant in wargamer English as well. But it really does make a difference in games that are not dead simple. So yeah, I agree. I had gotten a game that was published by a French company, really cool Marengo game, but they had some like just language stuff that didn't like go through Google Translate right. And so
Yeah.
when they wanted to talk about the the guns being limbered or unlimbered, they said horsed or unhorsed kind of stuff or whatever. They had some strange term that they were using. And so I don't know if it was just like straight from Google Translate, the French word, for unlimbered, translated to like unhorsed kind of thing. But
Yeah.
it was, it wasn't anything you could kind of figure it out. But it was kind of interesting. I'm sure for folks that have trying to deal with it's complicated enough sometimes in your native language, let alone somebody else's.
Well, you're absolutely right. And on the Board Game Geek forum, I've actually been watching, and there's some really passionate people in Europe that are playing this game too. And apparently in France, you have benefits, but if it's not a benefit, if it's a negative benefit, a negative die roll modifier, it's a malus.
Ah.
And so they're saying, well, you get a -2 malus for this. And I'm like, what? Well, yeah, there's definitely a specialized vocabulary, probably in all languages that do a lot of war games.
Right.
So it's nice to get somebody in the native tongue to be, checking the last of this, because there's still things in the manual that are just like, okay,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, let's jump into this. So with the way I have it set up, I did create cubes because I think we said we were going to try to play the scenario. This is the night battle for night quarters scenario, and we were going to
right,
try to use the fatigue cubes. So I put
right,
40 fatigue cubes down for the Russians. I haven't assigned orders or anything like that yet, and I was
well,
curious. I don't know that it's how it's handled, but are those heavy guns that are part of the central battery, are those assigned to Bagavoo?
they
So,
are assigned to Bagavoo, but they have a special rule attached to them. And that is don't change the setup, please. Don't go and do that. But technically, all of the guns from the reserve batteries are supposed to be contiguous in placement. So you would normally have a big set of them in one spot, and
oh,
you
okay.
divide.
Because it
But
sounded
don't
like
change.
it had to be adjacent to a unit from the central battery, which is why I had put them next to these little Jaeger units because that way then they're adjacent to somebody who's from the
My
same
my
battery.
understanding, I will stand corrected if I'm incorrect, is that all of those units have to be next to each other.
They should
This
all
is a
be
new
next to each other.
understanding from having reread the rules this morning, so I
Oh,
I will
okay.
stand.
Well,
That's
I'll
not.
take your word for it. Last time I
I
read
think
it was a few weeks ago when Michael and I were playing. But that
I
was one
think
of
you
the things
should.
that was a little it was so it says all units of the reserve artillery division must stay together as one contiguous formation at the end. Oh, okay, so maybe that's what it was. They didn't add contiguous formation in the previous rules that we'd read.
Maybe so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then those guns should all be lined up next to
But
each
you're
other.
fine.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and play it out the way
Yeah.
that it is.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to I'm going to go and just note I talked to Eric about this earlier. There's some ambiguity in the scenario booklet about what road to come in on. We're going to play with the entry hex here on the road that runs southwest from Eylau. There is another competing theory that we're supposed to use the road to the northwest from Freiheit. And I went and checked the original maps on Wikipedia and so on. And the French indeed were coming from the southwest. So where I have the entry hex is where I think historically they came on. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off. And you got setup locations on here now, so you can see where all of Eric's units are based on what division they're supposed to be. And it's a little bit complicated for this scenario because the setup instructions are a little bizarre. But I'm going to turn that guy off, and so just play with
Right.
the
So
right.
so here's the thing. You turn on and off the thing on your screen and it doesn't show up on mine. So
Okay.
if you were to turn on the setup for you, it doesn't affect. I don't see it because
Uh,
the Russians and the French are different. But if I toggle it, I can turn it on for myself and then turn it
right.
off. So that's
And so
yeah. So that's
so
one of the
sorry.
things where when Michael and I were playing this, we found this really clear divide where the French can't see the things that are Russian and the Russians can't see the things that are French.
Yeah, we actually talked about that, Nicholas and I, when we did this, and we went down on the side of additional fog of war. And one of the reasons for that is that when you have multiple divisions out and you are contemplating what you want to do that turn, it's going to make a difference if you know that, the Russian left all has attack orders and the Russian right all has defend orders.
Right.
We wanted to keep those confidential, but I watched your game with Michael, and I'm going to bring that up to Nicholas, and if we need to surface it to Uwe to figure out what the real desired result is. But for right now, you are kind of locked out. You're Russian or you're French.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to show you is that I don't know if you noticed is that if you click on a commander, you can click on command range, and then it lists the command range for each
Oh,
leader.
that's very cool.
Yeah, and I thought that that was really a handy thing because there's a lot of time where your units are moving further than you expect, and this gives you a good chance to pull them back. Okay, again, that's one of the things that a vassal game can do better than a cardboard game. It's part of the built-in.
What is
So,
the highlight formation? If so, you
yeah,
could click on a unit and then it says highlight formation. What does that do?
do you see it on your screen?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
So that tells you everything that's part of that eighth division.
okay. Cool.
Okay, we're going to turn my phone off here. All right. And yeah, so you can turn it off also. I think that's really a bright thing. And up at the top, you've got in the menu bars, you have four little icons with down arrows. And one of those is deactivate all units. So you can
Okay.
deactivate it. Or you can have multiple different divisions. Whoops, that's not the same thing. Multiple divisions highlighted. So
Okay.
however you want to use that activation, that's just for you to keep track of things. And you can turn all the activations off right there.
And that's and
Then,
that's by you selecting a unit and then clicking highlight formation.
yep.
Okay. Cool. And then you could toggle it off.
Mhm. You can
Okay.
toggle it off either by right clicking on the unit, but that only does the unit, or you can click on the deactivate all, and that gets rid of all of them. And then right next to the deactivate there in the toolbar is the remove all smoke. And then
So,
there's refresh
so
cavalry.
deactivate all units.
Mhm.
So you have to select a unit first and then you hit hmm,
Activate.
activate.
If you
Where's the
activate,
activate button?
highlight formation. If you highlight formation.
Okay. All right. And then you hit deactivate and it deactivates everybody. Okay. As
Yep,
opposed to going back to one of the units in the formation and then hitting the thing to.
exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly. Next one over is to remove smoke markers. There's
Right.
currently two levels of smoke markers, but you only use the level one because it was windy at Eylau and the smoke didn't really gather up by any accounts that we know of. I assume that in later versions, the second level smoke will become some sort of an obstacle.
Right. So
It's
we add a
idea.
smoke marker and then remove the smoke marker. Okay, that's kind of cool.
And then the third one there with a down arrow is to refresh all cavalry. So at the end of the turn, when all your cavalry is tired, you don't have to go find each unit and flip it. You can just go click on that button and it revitalizes all your cavalry.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay.
Flips them all back over.
And the last
Nice.
one there, the bag with the down arrow,
Yep.
that is to reset your activation cubes. So that
Okay.
pulls them back out of your army maps and into the uh, activation cubes, the bag, and then it lists them all out there so side by side. So then you can go drag them back to where they were. Now
Okay.
there is a condition in this version has one bug that we know about, and we're going to fix it, but we're waiting for the 1.5 rules. And that is that the activation counts aren't always right. So be sure you know how many you're supposed to have. You should have 6 French and 5 Russian in this game and 1 red fire cube. In the overall game, there's a lot more. So
Okay. So are we
you,
playing with orders or
I think
not?
I think we
Okay.
should. The scenario says everybody's on an attack order. And
Okay.
the scenario doesn't have any fatigue. But one of the folks on the BGG forum, which seems to be the most active of the game forums, has broken down all of the fatigue points so that you can play them by scenario. And I don't have those in front of me. I gave them to you yesterday.
Right. Yeah, I
What do
looked
you
that
feel
up
about
and it
this?
looked kind of cool. So yeah, so as I said, I put 40 fatigue points in on my board. I presume, I think you said that the French had 60 or 50 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm going to go ahead and put 60. Yeah, I think it's about 60. So um I'm gonna put 40 out in the black cubes on my screen, which it isn't showing up. But I'm gonna take the rest in grays because you end up using grays a lot more. So I've got 40, so I'm gonna just make 20 clones of this. There's
Okay.
one, two, three, uh, okay, it doesn't like that. There we go. There's some confusion about the arrow keys on Macintosh because the developers, the first developer and Nicholas, the second developer, are both on AZERTY keyboards instead of QWERTY keyboards.
Right.
And on Macintosh, it captures some of these keys to do like launch pad or something. One, two. There you go. Okay. So I've got my army fatigue out. You've got your army fatigue out. And you get the Army fatigue points in the counters under admin, and then there's general, and it shows there's a whole bunch of things until AFP1 and AFP10 are there.
Right.
And then, so you're good. So I'm on my army chart, and I've got um, 2 divisions entering right now, and they can be either on move, strategic move, or attack.
Okay.
And we are playing with these because it makes the game a lot more fun. Um, the move order allows you to move, and it gives you less fatigue points. The attack order gives you the ability to move and attack, and it takes away more fatigue.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to the very first thing here. Now that I got my cubes out here, I'm really in the orders phase. So I'm going to set both of those divisions that are entering today, right now, as attack. And I'm going to notice here on my army card. Can you show your army card there?
Wrong one. Here we go.
All right. So you'll see here that it's over at the bottom of the army card against army fatigue. It shows the orders how much initiative they give you, and how much fatigue they give you.
Right.
So every time I want to do an attack, I'm going to lose 2. So I've got 4 divisions times 2. So I'm going to take 4 of those gray fatigue point units. I'm going to highlight them all here in my army fatigue, and I'm going to choose send to common pool. And so off
Okay.
they go. And
All
so
right.
now I've got the right fatigue. So I've started to become fatigued just by breathing and being here. It's like having children.
That's cool. All right. So I did
Yeah.
not see that thing to click and just send it to the common pool. Nice. Okay.
You'll also notice if you actually highlight something and right click on it there in the army fatigue, you can send it to the Russian AFP pool or the French AFP pool. I'm
Right.
already in the, so it doesn't make any sense. When
You're welcome to send them to the Russian AFP pool.
Yeah, if I did
Just
that,
saying.
here, yeah, if I feel like you want to give you a gift because it's Thanksgiving,
It is. It
right?
is.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? No, every time you
Indeed.
lose a city, a victory point hex, like if you lost all the hexes of Freiheit, you would send 10 cubes to the French. Or if you lose the Windmill Hill, you would send 5 fatigue points to the French. So when you lose an objective, it goes to the enemy. When you lose a unit or you assign an order, it goes back to the general pool.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
So am I supposed to be holding Freiheit?
No, you're not. This
Oh,
game
okay.
is different than the overall the grand battle. In this case, you are responsible only for the majority of hexes in Preußische Eylau,
Okay. That's what I thought.
not in the cemetery.
Okay.
So it's just what's set up there.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Let's see. We got a couple
Uh,
of comments here from Stigler. I own this as well as Winner's Victory, but for this one, I'm holding off until the rules get sorted out. 1.4, 1.5, it's not sorted out yet. That doesn't bode well, to be honest. Are the artillery supposed to be some sort of grand battery? If so, they should have a mass. Yes, I didn't understand what they meant by it, so we'll set it up differently in the future. Area tinted can be
it's
very
not a
useful
grand
in vassal
battery.
modules when properly designed. So I think he's giving you a thumbs up on that tinting for the areas. And then he also says, I also like
Oh,
how when a leader is
thank you.
selected, the colored border appears around all the
Thank you.
units in his command. Nice touch. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's the activation. Yeah, I really like that too. I like the command radius so much when we did it here that I actually installed it into La Bataille de Wavre, which I just worked. Get this feature too, kind of over time. In La Bataille, it's more difficult because different people have different radii, and
Right.
I'm not sure how the main developer worked through that. I set it up so that you could set each individual commander to have his own radius, but I don't know if that stayed final version.
Okay. Well, that's kind of a
But the
cool
radius
thing.
is there. I just
Yeah.
don't.
Because that's always
So
the issue
uh,
is like, so I did
yeah,
like the
it's a cool
idea
thing.
of the command zone. We had a friend who was working on a Aspirin Esling module, and he had something where you could highlight the command range, but it was more generic, where it had different colored rings for, you know, division leaders and corps leaders and army leaders. So it wasn't necessarily specific. So this would be interesting then, when you highlight Benningsen or Napoleon, their command range is longer than these divisional leaders. So that would be interesting
It,
to see. But I like
it
that.
should show an 8 hex radius.
Right.
Is he 8? Is he 8 or 6? I don't remember. I haven't run into it in the game, but it should show the unique radius for the division and army commanders and corps commanders.
Okay. Cool.
So uh, now I've got my orders out here, and the first one out of the bag. Um, in this scenario, generally you don't put the last French cube in because the French cube is going to be the first one to activate. So I'm going to draw until I get a French cube. So I'm pulling out of the activation the other 2, and that'll re-randomize them. So you can do that as often as you want.
Right. And
So
so
I'm
the
going to
number
click this
of
guy
the
and I'm
number
going to
of
drag him over
cubes, the
here,
number of
and I'm going to
activation
bring
cubes
him
we
in.
have is not going to change for this entire scenario.
for any scenario. The activation cubes never change.
Well,
You
I
have
thought
those
for the
from
grand
beginning to.
battle
No, I
scenario, it
lied to you.
changed from one
It's
turn to
not
the
going to change
next.
in this game. You
In
do
this one,
change them
okay.
up.
Okay.
You do.
All right. So you've got a
You do.
French
You do. You're
one,
correct.
and
And not in individual scenario.
right. So I can't see your board, so I don't know who you're placing it
So
on.
I So I moved off the Second Division, Fourth Corps, and I'm going to move them on. So I'm going to grab my Army card, and when I look at my OOB, and when I have my OOB here, it tells me only the units that are available for this scenario. So if I were to open up Lestock Saves the Day, I would have a whole different set of available units here, which is really
Right.
kind of nice because we can just grab them and drag them off. Now we decided not um, to put the units out because there's so many different ways to set up, right? And you are coming from La Bataille, and that's real different than how I would set up an army. So the because you're having this checkerboard pattern, and I generally have kind of a solid line with retreat paths, so units can retreat back without displacing,
Right.
but it's not as loose as this. It, excited to try this because I wanted to see what you're doing, but this is different games give you kind of different rules here. Now you don't have to, but I kind of like to make my battalions line up together. And there's something else interesting here. The way that they do it is they have taken the Grenadier Battalion or the Chasseur Battalion from each regiment,
Right.
usually, and they've put that in one battalion, and then they've grouped the other battalions because you could have 4 or 5 battalions, but they're all just in the Musketeer Battalion,
Right.
right? So there, that's a little abstraction there. It's not bad.
Although, to be honest with you, because I'm play testing the what will be, I guess, the fifth edition of La Bataille de Eylau from Clash of Arms, and um, their setup um, the uh, for the battalions is the same. You know, it's the first of the 57th, second of the 57th, so the it's it's not that much different.
Okay.
It's not like we're missing any battalions, or
I
that
know,
they have,
and
or they've combined them. For the most part, the
I
French
know,
had larger size battalions than the Russians during this time period. So it
and
could be
more.
that the Russian, some of the Russian battalions, that these 8 factor battalions that are here are, they might be a combination of 2 battalions, where we should have 3 4 4 battalions. Instead, we
Mhm.
have 1 4 4 and 1 8 4. So the
Yeah.
French are the correct number of battalions, but the Russians look like they have one unit that's consolidating 2 battalions into one counter.
Well, let's go take a look at that as we go. So um, I'm just going to make a note here. Normally, I would move my artillery with a musketeer or preferably a grenadier or a chasseur, being a little bit smaller. And then if this guy does get attacked by cavalry, it has something to defend it. Stacking is 2 units for artillery and infantry, and 1 unit for cavalry. Stacking must be applied at all times. You can't move over other units. You've got to displace them unless you're moving one at a time. And in retreat, you can only displace. So I like to have my artillery units have something small on top of them. But there's nothing here that's that small. So maybe I'll just take these guys and I'll put them on top. Okay. Generally, artillery is supposed to sit underneath, but
Oh,
I don't think
really?
it's a
Okay.
golden rule. I like to stick them on top because they have kind of a different part of the battle, at least at first. So until they get engaged by themselves. So I'm going to move on here. So this is movement, and artillery is half movement per road hex. Everybody else is one. Leaders are half, but anyway. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and of course we got to turn these guys because they are supposed to be facing spines. So there's
Correct.
3, 4. Oops. And one thing I didn't do is I brought these in. They come off the card in line, and I'm going to change them all to column. And to do that, I'm using the flip command
Yep.
on the menu.
Yeah, the only other thing that I am missing in this vassal module is the change stacking order. So like,
Yeah.
so you want to like put the guns on the top or the bottom, or you want to move, you've got a grenadier, you want to put them on the top or the bottom. There's no key to have you do that. Normally, on the Labatai modules, it's the arrow key. So I'm like, oh, control arrow this, and instead it's adding hits to it instead of changing the stacking order.
Well, you're a victim of the Azerty keyboard again. And I have my own version of Eylau that I did that changes the loss points, but it doesn't end the rotation. But I think we have to have a longer conversation about how that works, and I've got to work with Nicholas and what he wants to do. So anyway, I moved from the first road hex second. Well,
Sure.
let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is 5, but it costs an additional movement point to enter adjacent to an enemy unit.
Right.
Now, they say that there's no zone of control, but kind of there is, because you got to pay the extra point, or if you're Russian, you got to pay 2 points
Right.
to enter French zone of control, French adjacency. So that's all I'm going to be able to range there. So I'm going to go with the rest of them. 1, 2, and I'm going to rotate him, and you can move one facing every space you move, and you can start a turn by changing your facing up to 30 degrees. If you change more than 30 degrees, you have to pay a point.
Right.
So so this is now 3, 4, 5, and 6, and we're going to go. It's 4, 5, and 6. Move.
Yeah, I also noticed that the default is all the artillery to be unlimbered on the
Yes,
card.
that needs to change too.
Yeah.
And remember when you change, well, so you don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to delete that. Ah, that was clever. So
Yeah,
undo.
you've
Undo is
deleted
important.
you deleted the whole unit there.
Yeah,
I
so
like
I just
that.
want to
Keep doing that.
wow, you're going to be a good player to play with. Thank
Yeah,
you. We're going to
yeah.
have fun. Okay. It's a
Delete
lot of
early,
fun.
delete often. That's the question there.
That's right. That's
Yep.
right. Like Chicago.
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay, so now all my stuffs are faced correctly. The rules in Eylau or in the Battles of Napoleon is that all units in a hex have to be faced the same direction, although they do not have to be in the same order. So if you can have lines and columns together,
Mm-hmm.
um, limbered artillery, unlimbered artillery, all those can mix together, but you can't be faced different directions, with the exception of squares, because in squares, your firepower is dropped to 2 points in any direction,
Yeah.
and your artillery is divided by 3 by side. So if you have artillery in a square, it can technically fire at 3 different, as my understanding as of today, is it can fire defensive fire in 3 different directions at a third value.
Right. Cool. So that
So
was
there's
that. So I presume since you moved into adjacent to me, you must have an attack order for that division.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
Because and why did I give them attack orders? Now, first of all, we were talking about why I want you not to know. Because in a larger battle, you may make a blunder if you think that I'm, in defend, and then in my last activation, I could come crashing out of that position and attack you.
Right.
Um, right? So that's kind of the goal, to have that surprise. But in this case, I'm going to let you know that I added attack because there's only 3 ways I can move. as a division more than one hex.
Right.
One is a move order, one is an attack order, and one is a strategic move order. And the strategic move has to stop when I get within 5 hexes of any one of your units.
Right. So you couldn't even come
No
on the
point
board
past that.
practically with that one.
I
So,
couldn't
yeah.
get into the board.
Yeah.
Right? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, see, you have those entry hexes blocked off for strategic movement. So I chose attack because I might as well, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't make a big difference. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. First, though, I'm going to clear my moved markers because I find them just a little bit annoying. So the last button over there on the menu bar is clear
Yep.
moved. And so all they go. And so now I'm going to select here and I have 18 points plus Laval. So I'm going to make an attack on your Moscow Grenadier.
Grenadiers. Okay.
Oh,
So then let's walk through that. So I think I have
let's
some
do it.
sort of defensive fire thing, right?
Bingo. You do. That's
Okay.
exactly right.
So I'm in line. So I am times 2, and I can fire up to 4 increments, correct?
Right.
So that's going to be 8 points.
Mhm.
And then let's look at the modifiers. So it's not no snow. You're not this, that, whatever. You are in column. So that's going to, no, that's artillery firing on column.
Right.
Defensive fire, so +1. French infantry against column. Okay, so that's not, and it's not heavy artillery. So it looks like I just have a +1 on the die roll. Is that correct?
8 plus 1 is what I make this.
Okay, so it doesn't matter how large your formation is. So I know in La Bataille, a big fat target like that would give me some bonuses, but in this one, it doesn't. It doesn't seem to have any impact on the fire value.
It doesn't in the way that they're kind of, I think, working on the belief that the top unit is the front one in the hex.
Right,
So all fire comes off the top. And
right,
if you shoot through the top, then the next fire goes to the second.
right. Okay, so we're on the 6 through 8 chart for fire point strength, and we roll 2 dice with a +1. So let's see what we get. A 7 plus 1 is going to become an 8. So that is 1 hit.
All right. And now you can add a loss marker. And if you
Right,
add a loss marker, it figures up what your loss is and then puts one under that. So if you set it to, if it's 9 and you choose an add loss marker, it's going to come in as an 8, and it means that you have 8 points left.
right,
But we added another choice here down at the bottom of the right-hand click menu, support point lost or stacking point lost. And it just puts a little red banner on your infantry unit under the 8. So the 8 used to be a 9. I
right,
can recover it and then I can take it off.
right. So
So
it's
part
basically
of
it's a little blood, a little bit blood splashed on your pants there from the
that's
guys who
right.
got
It's
shot.
red badge of courage.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and I do like the fact that it automatically just reduces the size of the unit. So that's easy to
yes,
see. Then you don't have to do any math in your head. So
and there's fewer counters.
cool.
And part of what I've always worked for in the modules that I've built is immediacy.
Right.
Every little bit of information on my naval games, everything, right down to the number of seaplanes you have, is right there on the counter. So as you lose them, they disappear on the counter. There's no
Right.
paperwork. I hate paper.
All right.
That's this.
So we're done with the defensive fire. So now we would go to the assault charge table, and I'll bring that up
Mhm.
here so people at home can take a look at it. So the assault table, we're going to determine the odds ratio. So it's 3 to 1, uh, and that's based on the size, right? Not that you're coming at me from 3 different hexes.
Based on the size. There's
Okay.
modifiers for the other stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
But right now it's
So there's a
1.
-2 for that. Now, the defending units, I'm elite, so I'm a +1. I'm a Russian, I'm a +1. So that's now +0. We're at 0.
Yes.
I'm not under defend orders, hold orders, retire orders, strategic move orders. I'm not being attacked from more than one hex. I'm not in obstructed terrain or being charged to the flank or the rear. Um, Infantry square formation assaulted by infantry. No, no. Infantry in line assaulted by infantry in column. -1. So that will stick.
Mm-hmm.
Infantry in square formation charged by cavalry. Nope, no lancers. Okay, so it looks like there's a -1 for the infantry in line assaulted by infantry in column.
Right.
Um,
Now it's time for the French to do their die roll modifiers.
right.
Okay. So you have a -1.
Yep,
I did lose an SP due to fire combat, so I'm going +1. So now we're net 0.
correct.
I'm not elite. I'm not green. It's not cavalry short distance. It's not cavalry against infantry. It's not tired. It's not heavy cavalry. It's not charging or assaulting uphill or downhill. And it's not an obstructed hex. So we're at a net 0.
Okay,
Then you add in the leader modifier. And the leadership rating here is 2. So
okay.
that's actually kind of good. So it's a +2 now. And it's a -2, excuse me. The idea on the fire table is to roll high. The idea on the assault table is to roll low.
Right.
Please don't
If
ask me what's
right.
that.
So if you roll high, then that's good for the defender. If you roll low, it's good for the attacker on the assault
Yep.
or charge table. Okay. So
One of
go
the things that
ahead.
I
I
oh, let
guess
me go ahead and roll.
yeah, a 12.
12.
So 12 minus
Doesn't
2 is going to be a 10. So if we look at the chart, I don't know if it's printed here or not. It says 9 or more, the defender holds the position and the attacker takes 1 strength point loss. If it was an 8 modified result that ended with an 8, then the defender holds the position and both of them lose a strength point. If it was 7 or less, then the assaulting charged unit loses 1 strength point each and retreats. If assaulted by infantry. If assaulted by cavalry, it's going to lose 2 increments and retreat. Okay, cool.
just so. So your battalion stood.
Okay, well, that was poor roll. Now, are there when are leaders' losses happen? Only on the fire chart?
It actually turns out, yes, on the fire chart is the only place they're lost, and they are where you have an
A
asterisk, where
little
you have a
asterisk.
star.
Okay. All right. That's what I was curious about because I know in La Bataille you can lose them both in melee as well as due to fire combat. So I was curious about that. Okay,
I,
cool.
part of the difference is these are hour-long turns, not 20-minute turns. So maybe the commander has more chance to get away. I don't know, but they just abstracted that so that it's in fire because that's kind of the immediate thing that you can't avoid. If your leader is if it looks pretty nutty up there and he's not making progress, he can ride away, but you can't ride a musket ball or a
Yeah,
cannonball.
nope,
So
not easily.
not easily. I sure can't. Um, So I am done with that division's move. And so
Okay.
now I go to the bottom and draw another activation, right?
All
So
right.
I've
So
got
let's take a look at the bag. So why is
you pull.
so why is it not showing? Oh, because you took it off and you set it there. All right. So it's
Yep.
another blue one.
So I'm going to open up my army card again and I'm going to drag that off. And I'm going to place it under the 2nd Division, 4th Corps a second time. So now I get a
Okay.
second activation of the same units.
Right.
And now I have a -1 movement point on infantry and artillery.
Okay.
So now these guys that say 6 are now 5. So now I can go 1, 2. Let me use the activation so you can see the formation. I think it needs to be a single unit to do the formation. There we go.
There we go.
So I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 because I'm entering your not zone of control.
Right.
And again, I'm entering your not zone of control and your not zone of control. And then I'm going to move my artillery. So the artillery now only moves 3, 1, 2, but I want to unlimber it. So that's going to take 2. So I'm going to flip him and give this one 1. And he's only got a range of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring him up behind. All
Okay.
right. Okay. So it's now back to defensive fire. So your grenadiers have a defensive fire. Now they have to, the rule is that they have to split their defensive fire to as many hexes as they're attacking, as they're being attacked by, sorry.
Okay. So they basically, so this chap here, for example, has to fire there and there, and then this
Correct.
guy has to fire there and there also.
Correct.
Okay, cool. So we know that their value is 8 when it was just a single one. So now it's going to be 4, 4 there and 4 there.
Mhm.
Um, and what sort of modifiers did we have?
By the way, I'm just going to
Defensive
stop you
fire,
there for
just
a
a plus
second.
1, right?
Defensive fire is a +1,
Okay.
and I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I
Yes.
was going to say is how you split your fire. It's not specified that it just has to go half each way. So if you look at the chart, you'll see that if you go into fours, you might want to change that into um, you could do a 6 and a 2, right? You just have to
Ah,
or you could do a
interesting.
7 and a 1. It doesn't say how much you have to divide them. You just have to
Ah,
make sure
okay. So
you're attacking.
you're not forced to then split it evenly. It's either or. Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, let's go ahead and I'll follow your suggestion. We'll do a 6 here and a 2 there. So for the 6, let's roll that. And that's going to be +1 because it's defensive fire. So that's going to be a 9. So that is a single hit off of that unit. Oh, wow. So they're going to be down. Did you already update them or?
yeah, I just did. It
Okay,
went
so
from
they started off with 9 and now they're down. They've lost 3. Okay, good. And then we're firing at the 2 chart with a +1 on the other chap, and that's going to be a miss.
That's a miss.
Yeah. Okay, and for these two, the bottom two, we'll just do 4 and 4. So for the first one, that's going to be an 8. That is a miss. And for the next one, that's also a miss. Okay. So I could see the advantage of doing the 6 and the 2. I would have gotten at least one hit on on that roll.
Yeah,
So cool.
exactly.
Okay.
I don't, I'm not super familiar with the Labatai fire, but I know that that's how you really get big damage on stuff. Here, it's really hard to get, higher than 12. And so you're talking about 9 points before you're kind of guaranteed, 8 points before you're guaranteed a hit that gets two, or a
Right.
possibility of a hit that gets two.
Right.
So it does pay to concentrate fire as much as you can.
Well, and normally in Labatai, you can only fire so that this one hex here could only fire at one of these two, but they would fire their
Yeah.
full value at it.
Mhm.
And so therefore, you could put everything on one or the other, but you can't split. Labatai won't let you split between two hexes.
There
So
you go.
yeah,
This is kind of cool because in if the dice gods are absolutely with you and you get a point damage on each of two stacks attacking you,
right,
then you're gonna get some nice modifiers in the assault.
right,
So,
cool.
all right.
All right, so we're back to where we were before. Which one do you want to do first?
Well, I'm gonna go from the top down. So I'll go
Okay,
here, here. So these are going to be 15 plus 20. So it's 35 to 5.
right. So
So
it's a -3. So at this point, once you're at 4 to 1, there's not anything more, is there?
nope, nope. Nor
Okay,
can you attack odds worse than 1 to 2.
okay,
You just simply can't do it.
okay. So so there's a -3, right? I'm elite, so that's +1. I'm Russian, that's another +1. So we're at -1 right now.
Mhm.
Um, I'm being charged from more than one hex, so that's
Right.
another -1. So I'm at -2. Um, Charged through a flank, no, nothing of that. Infantry in line assaulted by infantry in column. So that's another. So I'm at -3 right now. Um, and I think that's it as far as modifiers. So I'm at a -3. So now it's over to you.
Okay, so I'm going to check it, and I lost the fire point, so it's going to be a +1. So
Right.
now it's a -2,
Yep.
and I've got nothing else there except my leadership, which is
Okay.
another 2. So
So you've
it's
got
going
a
to be a
-4 on the die roll. So you need to roll
now.
another boxcars.
No,
A
sorry.
7, right. So this time, so now I'm going to take a loss.
Great.
And to do that little mark, I press what? Control and the
Right
down arrow
click for
key?
now. Right click for now. Yes, that works.
Okay. All right. And so then
I do
he's
this
got to go back 4 movement points or 4 hexes.
4 hexes. You don't count terrain, just
Okay.
move.
All right. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 puts him there. Okay.
Yep. The worst part of this game for me is figuring out retreats when you're packed in tight, because there is a flow chart really of what the priorities are.
Right.
So at
And
some
that's
point,
one of those things that's not, that I think they need to do a little bit better as far as presentation so people understand that.
yeah, I've built a flow chart and it's still complex. I'm going to build another flow chart and hopefully make it less complex.
Okay, cool. Now somebody needs to move into that hex, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
All right. And then I'm going to, I don't think you have to occupy, but you may occupy. Um, if I'm incorrect on that, somebody chime in from the forum. I'm going to select the next guy as an attack. So
Okay.
that's 18 plus 21. So that's 29 at, is that right? No, that's not right. It's 21. Oh, no. 21 and 18 is
Yeah, I mean
39.
you're at 4 to 1 or more. So there's a -3 for the odds. Oh, we have,
Minus 3.
yeah, -3 for the odds. And then we're looking at uh, the elite and Russian, so that's going to be +2. So we're at a -1 right now.
Mhm.
We're in line being assaulted by infantry in column, so that's another -1. So we're at -2. And so that appears to be it as far as defending units modifiers.
Yes.
Okay.
Now I'm going uphill. So that's a +2. So we're
Okay.
at a -1 right now.
So we're at a
So
-1. No, we should be at a 0 by now.
are we 0? Okay, we're at
Yeah.
0 then.
Yeah.
And then I got my leadership, which is none, so it's a 0. So it's now
Okay.
just a straight odds assault. And I rolled a 6, which is
Okay.
good.
So that's going to
So
be another hit for me. So here, SP loss. Good. So they'll go back 1, 2, 3, and 4. Puts them back there.
oops. Okay. So that is the end of my move. I'm going to clear my movement markers.
Okay. And we go back to the bag.
Exactly. And you pull 1 this time.
Okay. And it's another French. So you can
Okay.
have 3 French in a row, correct? Or
I can
three
have
three of one
three of any
side in a
size.
row. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to activate the 2nd Division 4th Corps a third time.
Right.
And I'm going to move
And so now you're -2 movement
-2,
points.
right?
Okay.
So I got 4. So I'm going to go right there. And that gives me 2. So I actually have 2 left. This
Okay.
guy's going to go straight forward. And he has 1, 2, 3 for going into the unit
Okay.
adjacent to the. So you're going to get a big defensive fire on this one. But if I beat you on the assault, you're going to lose your artillery.
I thought there was something where they can potentially roll to limber up and get away or something.
Hey, I don't know whether I've fired 5 shots from this revolver or 6. How lucky do you feel?
No, I thought there was something I saw there, but hey.
There is. It's an emergency limber.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll get to
And
that when we get to that.
yeah, and there's
So,
actually a discussion about how artillery should be treated. Um, this is a straight up retreat, but there are situations where you're going to get pushed back by a retreating unit. And there's this debate that artillery should be able to be pushed back
right.
as opposed to retreat. And there's no rules in here for prolonging. So there's there's some things that probably need to change.
Yeah, yeah. We when we were playing it at Consim in Tempe, we were like, you know, the the business with, you know, so you wouldn't actually attack the guys with the guns. You'd attack the guys next to him, and then those guys retreated away, and then these guys failed their stand check, and so now the the guns are abandoned because
Yep.
something happened next to you. And so we're like, where exactly at Eylau were the Russians abandoning their guns? Didn't happen. And so that was something that we kind of found was significantly ahistorical. But we realize they're trying to be abstract with some of this stuff. But I understand if you attack the hex that the guns are in, and the combat goes against them, we could understand that. But the idea that something happened to one of your neighbors and then that the unit's not even attacked and it breaks and runs, we had a problem with that. So say la
Currently,
vie.
that is the rule, and it's gonna get changed. I don't know what it's gonna get changed to, and I can't swear that it's gonna get changed because again, I'm not part of that inner circle, so I
Right.
don't know what the decision they've made. But I think the consensus of opinion is there has to be a change on the way artillery um, responds to morale checks for other units.
Okay.
So move this guy. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go, oh, you know what? I'm actually gonna go there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So same difference.
All right. So going up or down the slope
One,
costs the same.
2, 3. Yep, same thing. One way or
Okay.
the other. It slopes an extra. It's just a point for a slope either way.
Okay. Cool.
And then I'm gonna move my other unit there, and I'm gonna leave my artillery where it is.
Okay.
Oh,
Exciting.
I'm gonna limber this one. So this one is unlimbered.
Okay.
So it goes on to defensive fire.
So
So
first,
you
so first you have to tell me who's attacking. So because it's not
are
evident
correct.
who's attacking whom.
You are correct. This one, okay, wrong key. This guy and this guy are attacking your artillery here.
Okay.
Now, this guy can attack your artillery there
Right.
because in a column, you have 4 frontal hexes
Right.
here, 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 and here. Whereas opposed to a line, you only have 2 frontal hexes, one flank, and then the rear.
Right.
Which is a bit of a piece of work for me because I've never seen columns move sideways, but that's the way it is. So I'm going to start with this guy to your infantry down here.
Okay.
So
So let's see here. So I will have defensive fire. So I'm going to have 8 points
correct.
because I'm in line, um, and I will get a +1 because it's defensive fire, and I don't see other modifier. So here we go. Let's see what we get. A 6 becomes a 7, and that just misses you. Okay.
Just by one, I think.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Missed it by that much.
not much. Okay, I know when you were watching TV. Okay, so take the next one. Now you got some artillery and you've got infantry. So your infantry is going to be a full 8 points
Oh, so
because it's a.
we don't finish the combat here?
Oh, we can do that.
Oh, okay.
You're probably right. We should do that at the same time. So I've got 21 points versus 12. So
Right.
I'm 1.5 to 1, which comes out as a 1 to 1.
Okay, so there's no pluses or minuses for that.
No pluses or minuses for that.
Okay,
So
so
you're
then I'm not elite, but I am Russian, so I'll have a +1 for being on the for just being Russian. Isn't that convenient? Um, my orders are there's no effect for that. There doesn't seem to be anything. So then there's a -1 for infantry in line being attacked by infantry in column. So then that negates it, so now we're at +0. And then that's it. So now we go over to any modifiers on the attacker side.
And I'm going downhill, so that's a -2.
So going downhill is charging, assaulting downhill. Oh, I never even saw that.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So there's a
This is
-2.
right. This is
Interesting.
kind of nice because it does have charging assaulting. Sometimes it just has charging, sometimes it just has assaulting. But there's a note at the beginning of the manual that they are absolutely interchangeable
Yeah,
terms in
they
every.
use the same term. Yeah. And that's what really confused us because Lava Tai players were used to a charge is the cavalry does that, and assault is what the
It's
infantry
6
does. And
pages of
so,
the rules
yeah,
in La Bataille,
yeah,
right? Same thing
cool.
here.
Yep. Okay.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
you'll have a -2 on the roll, and it looks like that's what it nets out to.
987.
A 7. So that's going to be a loss for me. And
Okay.
then I will have to retreat back 4 hexes. 1, 2. So and both of the guys have to go. They don't both take a loss. Only the top unit. Is that correct?
Only the top, well, it tells you. In this case, 7 or less, the assaulted charge units take a support a strength point each,
Oh, okay.
right?
All right. So the bottom
You
unit's
notice
got to
when
take
it
a loss
says
too.
when you say it's 9 or more, the defender holds the position and the attacker takes 1 SP. That means it's 1 SP off the top. In 7 or less, it's 1 SP each.
Right. And so this is one of the things that we noticed, particularly in the earlier rules, that the everything was really skewed for attacking, and it's still skewed for attacking. they they it was almost the point where it made no sense to do anything but to attack. This is a
True.
little bit different, but not. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go right there.
But I want to throw this back to you. Um, However, there is no disorder and route. So no unit is ever going to get routed and not
Right.
be able to perform some morale check to come back.
Yeah.
You always come back. It makes a determined opponent relentless. You can't kill them. So or you can't stop them from actually doing what they want to do. So it's just a balance.
Right.
You don't it's skewed towards the attacker, but the defender comes right back.
Yeah.
So that was good, and I'm going to take the hex. Right. Actually, in this case, you know what? I'm not going to take the hex. I'm going to stay right there. The reason for that is because if you charge me, if you counter
Yep.
charge
I'm
next
coming
turn,
up the hill. Yeah.
bingo. So I'm going to keep that one. So now I've got the other attack to make. So let's do your defensive fire.
Okay. So now I have to split it between those 2 hexes.
Correct.
And my defensive fire, is it the 4 infantry and the 2 artillery, or is it just the
Yeah,
artillery? Okay.
it's both, and you would normally be able to combine them, but because there's 2 units attacking you from different hexes, you have to split it somehow. You get to pick how, but you have to split it somehow.
So does that mean I have to fire all of the infantry at one hex and all the artillery at a different hex?
No, it does not. You can
Oh,
fire all
so I add it all
artillery.
up and then I can split it multiple ways.
Yep,
Oh,
yep.
okay.
You can take a point off or 2 points off or whatever it happens to be.
Okay. So for the
I got to pick
infantry,
it.
I've got 8 points. And then for the artillery, it's not, this is considered light artillery, I guess.
And that's regular artillery.
It's regular artillery. Okay.
Yeah. I think light artillery doesn't have that band. You see that band um, on the left-hand side of the battery, that white
Okay.
band? I think that indicates that it's regular artillery, foot artillery.
Foot artillery. Okay. Well, in any case, it's times 4. So that's going to be another 8 points. So I'll have 16 points. So I can have, 4 points of that infantry and 4 points of the artillery there, and 4 points of infantry and 4 points of artillery there, I guess. Split it
Mhm.
between the 2 groups.
Or
Or,
was
as you said, I could have what, 9 and 2 or 9 and 3? as another option, but I can't have.
No, you have 16 points. So
Oh,
it
I
would
have
be
16 points. Oh, okay. All right.
two times adjacent, because you're adjacent to the artillery effective range. You are two
Okay.
times four, so you're eight. So you're
Okay.
eight artillery and you're eight infantry. So it's 16 together. So you can divide that up any way you want to.
Okay. So I could do 12
And
and
four.
4, for example. Okay. Or
Mhm.
I could do 15 and 1
Yep,
or some combination of those two. Cool. Okay. Well,
exactly.
let's try the 12 and the 4 and see how that goes. So we'll do the 12 on the top hex over here for what it's worth. Um,
Okay.
and so we've got uh, defensive fire, so that's a +1. Artillery firing on column is another +2, so we're at +3. Um, are there any other modifiers, or that seems to be it?
Yep.
Okay, I think that's it.
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
Right.
so let's roll and see what we get. A 6 plus 3 is going to be a 9, and that's going to be 2 hits.
All right.
Okay.
On the wall stack.
Yes, on the top, the stack with Laval. Yep. All right, and then the bottom one we're on the 4 chart, and we still have the +3. So here we go. That's going to be a 10, and that's good enough for 1 hit. Yeah, I guess that's where it gets to be pretty nasty there.
It does. But again, you notice no additional counters on top of this, right on the information. Everything's on the counter and we're
Yep,
going relatively fast. So now I can go ahead and make my assault and I can figure out what I've got.
yep.
So I'm going to look here and I've got, now that's down to 13. So that's getting a little beat up. 13 and 19 is 32.
Yeah, to 6. So you're at 4 to 1. So there's a -3. I'm Russian, so that's a +1. So we're at -2. Um, I don't see any other thing here except now infantry in line assaulted by infantry in column. So that's another -1. So we're at -3 again.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So we're at -3.
And then my assaulting charging unit has each taken this an SP loss due to fire combat. Since there's two stacks here, I think it's appropriate to take it off of both stacks, but I don't have the correct answer for that individual case. So I'm going to say it's two. So I'm
So there's
where I'm
just a
at now.
-1, I guess.
Yeah, I think
Or
that's
is it
minus.
for each strength point lost?
No, I think it's any amount lost, and I think it's by stack, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah,
But I
because
think it's
when we were
minus.
playing it, it says lost strength point due to fire combat. So we had been doing it for uh, each
Let's do it
hit
to
you
three. So
took.
now I'm at a
But
zero.
we're more used to that for La Bataille, where when you come to do your pre-melee morale check, for every loss you took in the defensive fire, you've got like a -3 on your morale check. And so
Uh,
if you take 2 losses, now it's a -6. If you take 3 losses, it's a -9. Um,
let's take it that way and let's make it back to a zero. And then my leadership rating with a Laval is -2.
-2.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that
I'm gonna
there's.
roll.
Yeah,
And I rolled a
a
4
4.
-2.
Yep, so
So that's
that's going to be a success for you.
right. Now,
So now we have to figure out what to do, or what's the
okay,
next thing that happens here.
the very next thing you need, well, first of all, both units need to take a strength point loss.
Okay.
Okay. Then in the assault table, there is no, the fire table, excuse me. There is an urgent limbering
Limber.
die roll, which is you don't even have to look. It's a 6.
Right. So I have
So
to roll
roll
a 6 on one die to for
right,
those guys to get away. and they were close. They rolled a 5, but it's
but
no
no.
cigar. Okay. All right. So
Now,
those guys are gone.
right?
And
So we
where
don't
do
have a
we put
graveyard.
them?
You just delete them.
Okay.
I would like to add a graveyard so you can see what units are where, but that hasn't happened. The next thing is you need to take one fatigue point and send that to the common pool.
All right. I got to find my thing there. Where are we at? So that's from my thing there. Okay. And send to common pool. Good. Now, when I go to the common pool, why is it only showing one fatigue cube over there? Oh, I
Whoops.
see. It's a whole bunch. They've just stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That
Yeah,
explains.
it's
Yeah,
a
I'm just
little.
like, it just showed one. I'm like, I know I sent 4 at least. Okay. So
Yeah,
cool. So then this guy's then got to move back. He's got a movement of 5. He's got to move back 5. So, and he can't move past somebody he can't move through an Ezok of somebody else without taking another loss, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
right. So he'd have to
Give
go here. So that's going to be
give
1.
me a quick second just to give you that flow chart out of my head. Units that are retreating have to move away from the units. They have to increase the distance between the unit that attacked them and where they're going. That's priority one.
Okay.
Priority two is they can't go into another zone of control, which isn't a zone of control, right?
Right.
The next is they have to move in the direction of their army. And so in the case of the Russians, it's to the northeast,
Right.
and to the French is to the southwest
Right. So
or
he's,
north.
yeah. So
North.
he'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's
Yeah.
moving away and he's moving to the northeast.
Yep. So that's a
Cool.
perfect retreat. The only one of those rules that is a must is you have to move away from the unit that inflicted the damage.
Okay.
So if you can't find a path, then you have to take the loss from the next unit, but you still have to keep moving away from it.
Okay. Interesting.
If you can't move away from it any other way, you have to displace an existing unit. And when you do that, the unit that's displaced moves one hex, you move into it. If it has to displace again, you can move it again, but it just displaces back one at a time
Right.
until you hit the retreat path.
Now, let's imagine um, that. So we had this combat here, and let's say this unit was here instead, was adjacent.
Right?
So it could have done a fire combat on that chap, and then this guy loses, and he goes back, and
Yep,
then this guy's got to make a stand check. Correct?
that's correct.
Okay. And so with the stand
But
check, let me see what that one says. A unit, and you've got to roll it. Is it a 6 or better?
no, it's a less than, okay, yeah, six or better. You're right. That's the other thing that annoys me. They have equal to or less than, greater than, and it would be great if they just stuck with one operand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was one of the things that was frustrating to us was just like, and so at least I like on the new charts where it's like 9 or more, it's this, 8 is this, 7 or less is this. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's if the die roll is less than 6, the charged unit loses 1. So we would, if we're making a roll, they're not elite, they're not green, they are Russian, so they get a +1. -2 if the unit's eliminated. So in this case, there was an artillery unit there that's eliminated.
So you would get
So you'd have a
malice.
-2 on that.
Or should I say you get that malice?
Right. Yes. Um, and we're not in square. We're not this, that, or whatever else. Okay. And there's no enemy cavalry nearby, and no leader present. So if they were there, then they would make a check, and they would then have altogether a -1 on the die roll
Mhm.
to stand. Okay. And then
Right.
what happens if they fail? Are you saying that the
Well,
guns are abandoned, or do we have to roll for the emergency
good
limber?
question. That's under a very large debate thread right now.
Okay.
The way I read it in the rules, it says but this works like a retreat. So, and it's like a retreat, guns can't move unless they're limbered, so you have to
Right.
limber it, you have to take the roll. But I think that they're saying that if it's in this situation where you're standing for somebody else's, you know, failure, then you should be able to move one hex at least. And if you have to move further, then you have to go further. So yeah, you see, in this, the stand table is pretty clear. It says you have to retreat the full distance. So if I would, right now, the way I would play it, given all the things that are going on, it's not written down in the 1.4 rules. I would move it one hex, and then I would limber it and move it as many hexes as you need to.
Okay.
So I would say you can limber the guns automatically, basically, in a stand check, but not in
But not in a combat. Yeah. No, that makes sense. But yeah, those were some of the things that were missing from 1.3. And the other thing that was missing was like you could have cavalry make multiple reaction charges to like anytime somebody showed up, you just reaction charge, reaction charge. So
Yep.
now I'm glad that like, oh, you're tired, and now you can't reaction charge once you're tired. So I'm like, that's what they needed.
Yeah,
So
you can move without getting tired, and then you can make a reaction charge, or
right,
you can charge and not make a reaction charge.
right,
Yeah, much more realistic. Getting a bunch of
right.
blown horses back into formation and up to
Okay,
effectiveness is difficult.
cool.
So
All
I'm going to
right.
move
So at
one
this
forward,
point, uh, okay, so you push that guy forward. Cool.
and now it's a new pull,
All right. So we go
and
back to the bag.
not be a French one.
Yes, and it can't be French. So it's got to either be the fire one or it's going to be the Russian
Yep.
one. So let me grab one. It's Russian.
Great. There you
Hooray.
go.
Okay. So we would activate the 8th Division. The 8th Division is under attack orders. And so then now what we've got to do is figure out how to attack you with our forces. So I'm curious with, because it wasn't entirely clear how stuff moves. So say I've got this chap here, and he wants to, turn and attack you in the rear, for example. Um,
Right.
how is that handled? Because one of the rules said you can change any direction at the beginning of the turn, but then it's like for every hex you move into, you can turn, 160 degrees. And if you do more than that, it costs one. So I'm just trying to figure out. Say, for example, I didn't want this guy to attack, but I want him to move back into a more defensive position. Um, what would that cost if I'm going to be turning him, right? So that's two hex points, and then I want to move him back here, and then I want to turn him back, kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
that's one of the things with the line. The line, as opposed to all the other formations, pays one per turn, per hex point you turn.
Okay,
It's just harder to move lines.
right. So if I
As, as a tip, you could flip over to um,
move to
column,
column, right?
and then you'll get more movement.
Well, or I could just turn him into square,
If
right?
you turn them into square, you've only got one movement, or you actually have to move and then turn them into a square. Yeah. If you're already a square, you can move one hex.
I thought if you came out of a square, you then have whatever your remaining movement points are.
Yeah, if you come out of a square, you have your remaining movement points. I thought you wanted to go into a square.
No, no,
Sorry.
no. So, I mean, for example, if this guy wants to try to move somewhere, right? If I turn him,
Mhm.
even if I turn him into column, so I spend a movement point to put him into column, he's still facing this way, right?
Okay. Now he's got.
So, what's then the, um, what then is his, if he wants to turn, now it's going to cost,
Turn him
um,
30 degrees, so one hex spine,
right?
right? That's free.
Okay,
So now he has 5 movement points because he used one to change.
right.
Now,
Okay,
if
and
you
so if
turn
he moves
one movement,
here, and then he can turn because he entered a new hex, right?
Yes,
Okay. All right. I think I see how that works. Cool.
just so.
All right. Um, and then this guy, he's uh, he can move forward, and then he's got to pay to turn one, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. And the guns can turn. All right. And then uh, let's see. 1 and then 2, 3, 4 to
Yep.
go up
Just
there.
so.
Okay, cool. I think I'm getting the handle of it. And then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. These guys can move here like that. All right. We'll just move Essen over there for the second so we know where he's at. Okay. These guys here. So if these guys here moved, if they turned, oh, I keep hitting my usual commands.
Yeah, I know it. I know it.
I'm
I
like
know it. I'm
Control
sorry.
Z, Control X. I'm like, no, that's not. So that's cost them 1 to do that,
Right.
even though, so because they're in line. And so
Right.
then it would be 2, 2, 3, and then they don't have enough to go here because it's up a slope and it's a zone of influence.
Right.
Okay, cool. Um, Interesting. All right. Well,
So you could
we'll
probably convert it to a column right where you are, and
right,
then that sets it up to 6. And then if you move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you could do that.
right. But then he would be in column and line at the same time, I guess, right? Which is possible.
Yeah. Oh, I've got to look that up. Hold on a
So I mean,
second.
so one, so yeah, so one of the units would be in column, and one of the units. So this guy would be in line, and that guy would be in column, I guess.
I think you have to be in the same facing, but not the same. Um,
Don't have to be in the same formation, from what I
the same
recall.
formation. Yeah. I have this in a notebook LM, but I can't share it. They used to let you share it, and now they don't.
Right.
So they're doing things. Uh,
So
okay.
someone named Kenneth who's watching says no, got to be the same formation.
Okay, yeah, Ken's right. He's a good rules guy. He
Okay.
really I Ken. So yeah.
Okay.
Yep, here
So
it is. Units of the same category in the same hex must have the same formation and same facing at the end of their movement.
okay. So if
So
we
yeah,
spend
use the time.
1, 2,
Exactly.
3, 4, 5, 6, he doesn't have enough to change formation.
Right. So he probably does not have.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Kenneth.
Okay. Cool. All right. So now let's see where we want to put that guy instead. So now if we have him over here, there we go. So that's where he was. So if you spent 1 point there, and then that's going to be 2, 3, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gets him there potentially.
Hmm.
All right. So that's going to then cover his friend's rear end. Okay. Or we'll just go here and then we'll convert ourselves back into line. Okay. And then this guy, we're going to move him here so we have a reserve of sorts. And then these guys are already in column, so they can come up. So I'm just trying to figure out what to do with my artillery because I don't want it to be like out on its lonesome, but at the same stroke, I don't. It looks like, yeah, because if it's all by itself, it's got a really bad negative modifier.
Very.
Okay. So if we unlimber those guys and then we pull up one of these grenadiers, whoops, just one, please. And so we have at least some protection. And then what can we do here? We can put this guy. That was weird. Put him there. And I guess have this guy here. And then we still have some semblance of a reserve. Okay, cool.
And just for fun, you might want to put on your command radius on S and turn it on.
Okay, command range.
And it looks like everything you've got is in
Oh,
command
yeah.
range.
And then we got this guy over here. I forgot
Yep.
about him. He's the poor sod who ran away. Um, so we can bring him up, as you say, right? Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. So let's take him out. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we'll just put him right there for the moment. So we've got some reserve over there. Okay, cool. So I've got. So at this stage, you can't attack me. Oh, actually, no, you can't attack me at all because you've used all 3 of your cubes, right?
On this division.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
are there more divisions that are coming in this turn?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
In disclosure, there's another division coming in.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with the scenario. So, oh, you've got the dragoons come in.
Exactly.
All right. And are they coming in the same spot?
Yes. They
On
come in
any
within
weapon
10,
mass edge 10 hexes
within
of
10
the road
hexes.
that leaves the map west of Freiheit. So
So
that
they
one looks
can enter right here,
right.
and that would make your life very interesting.
Yes, I'm sure.
Or they could come in down here. I mean, they could come in, scroll down. I can go anywhere south, and I could sweep around across the flank here. I have a
Okay.
lot of and I don't
Cool.
have a battle. I'm just going to respond to what you do.
Right. Yeah. No, nice. Okay, cool.
Let me point
So,
one thing out, if you don't mind.
sure, please give me
Your
advice
unit,
because
right?
I
Your
really haven't
unit,
played the
right?
game much.
Yeah, exactly. Your unit right here is fine, but this is where you start getting into problems with retreat. Assuming I could attack from this hex,
Right.
and I got this to withdraw, it's going to have to push aside one of those units.
Okay.
So, that's not a problem. What would be with the artillery? It wouldn't be with the infantry. But I just want you to be, well, I think it's important to be aware of anybody of your retreat paths. And a big block of units is a disaster. I know this because I've played with Kenneth and he's done this to me.
Right.
So the my ideal formation has lots of channels back so that nobody's really forced to go backwards on top of another unit.
All right.
Although
So if I were to limber up these guns, that cost 1 or 2 points?
two,
2 points? Okay.
2 points,
And then going down here is going to be 3, 4.
right?
And then over here would be then 5 to have them
Correct.
stacked over there. Okay. Cool. All right. Good to know. All right. Yeah. And so if I attack, I don't. Um, okay. Well, I will try to do an attack then on this chap here from these
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Right. So that means that I have 2 points of fire from a column in a
Right.
hex. So I have to divide it between 2 units. So I'm going to divide between this one and this one. So the
Okay.
first roll is going to be a 12.
That's a
And I
hit.
now, well, it is, but the way that we generally have been playing it is with low point infantry fire. We roll the dice first because, 80% of the die rolls you're going to get are not going to do anything. That's
Right.
actually what, that's good to know. So just figuring it up really quick, it's 2. Um, it's defensive fire, so it's a +1. And there's nothing else really horrible going on. So that's definitely a hit. So
Okay.
that's 2 points at, or 1 point at 12, and that's
Okay.
one. So you get off of that guy.
All right. And then the next one.
A 6, so nothing. Not even
Okay.
worth the modifiers.
Cool. So now I don't fire, but I do um, the assault thing, right?
Correct.
Cool. So I've got 5 and 7. So I've got, what is that? It's 11. No, 12. And you've got 13.
Yep.
Okay. So we are at, well, what are we at? We're not at 1-to-1 anymore. Does it round up or round down?
It it's a weird rounding thing again. Um, you have it's a 1-to-1. If you
Okay.
had more than half to get to the next increment, it would go up to the next increment.
Okay.
So let's say that you have, how much do you have? You have 9, 13. I have, I have 13. You have 12.
Right.
If you had 17 to my 12, it would be a 1-to-1.
Right.
If you have an 18 to my 12, then it rounds
Then it
up to
rounds up
2.
to the 2-to-1. Okay. Interesting. Good to know. All right. So then we start to look at the defending unit. So there's no odds modifier. So then we go to defending unit. You're not elite, you're not green, you're not Russian, you're not under any of these orders. You're being charged from more than one hex, so that's a -1. You're being charged through, well, you're in column, so I guess that's your rear, so that's -2. So you've got a -3 altogether so far.
Mhm.
Um, infantry in column, so you're being assaulted by people that are in line and in column. So how does that work?
You take the better modifier for the defender in this case.
Okay, so that's going to be a +1. So that puts us, I think, still at a -2 altogether. Um, okay, good. And then we go to the assaulting units. I did lose 1 SP to fire, so that's going to be a minus. So that means now it's just a -1 altogether. Um, I do have elite units involved, so that's going to be another -1. So we're at -2.
Yep.
And so that's it. So there's no leader or anything like that. So it's, well, oh no, you've got a leader, right? Oh
But
no, it's
that
only
but
the
that's
assaulting unit that gets the leader benefit. Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's a -2 altogether. All right, so we roll and see what we get. A 6 becomes a 4. So that's going to be, you're going to lose, each counter loses 1, and then you've got to retreat back.
Now I got to move here first because I have to move further away from you.
Right.
And there I'm keeping it the same, but I can't go any other way. I guess I could do it this way. I could push this guy out and move here. Now I fulfill all the criteria. So now it's
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's slightly gamey, but because you're going a number of hexes instead of movement points, you can take hills that way.
Okay, cool. So,
Now I got
uh,
to do a stand check.
oh yeah, for those guys.
Right.
So let's
So
take a look.
this,
We haven't done a stand check before. So you're not elite, you're not green, you're not Russian. The unit next to you was retreated, so that's just a -1. Not in square, there's no leaders around, no cavalry, so it's just a -1 altogether.
right.
A
So I
7
rolled a
minus 1 is
7,
a 6.
6.
So you
So
just
it's
barely passed.
just barely.
Okay. Cool. That's when I need to have my cavalry around. Scare you away.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
The more
thought that
you,
was a little broken too. Like the cavalry is within 3 hexes, it's like we can smell them.
Well,
They're on the other side of
yeah,
the hill. Yeah.
there
Okay.
are cases where it's other side of the hill, and I asked that question, and that has to do with rolling for squares, and they were like, "You just yeah, it's kind of just the system right now." The rules say that you get to automatically form a square when an enemy cavalry unit is 4 hexes away. It doesn't say four or less; it says four.
Okay.
So if it's hexes, then you have to roll for a square check with a
Okay.
small modification. If it's 2 hexes, it's a bigger modification. Adjacent, it's worse still. So you can imagine a position where this infantry unit right here is on one side of the hill and your cavalry is right there.
Right.
My contention was, well, if that's where they activate, I ought to be able to, or let's say they moved up all the way from here. I wouldn't get, excuse me, I got to make it here. So here's your cavalry charging, and your cavalry gets to the spot. And I said, well, I would have known they were coming. No, you don't know they're there. And then once they get this spot, then you can go ahead and make your square.
Right.
So you got to be kind of cognizant of these things. But the rules don't say that. The rules say within 4.
Huh.
It
Okay.
says, the rule says 4 plus line of sight. So you're right. So this would work out. Anyway, we're good, and you've
Cool.
got your
So now
attacks
my
and everything.
question is, when I move into this hex, can I change my facing, or how does that work?
I
Or do
believe
I?
you can change your facing,
Okay.
but I don't know. I'm gonna look that up. Okay, hold on just a second.
Yeah.
Uh,
There would be some sort of advance after combat, but
yeah. Advancing units keep their formation, but may choose any facing.
okay.
If
So
charging units have different formations attacking from 2 different hexes, the player of the advancing units must decide which units to advance. So you
okay.
could advance both of them, but not because they're in different ones. They'd have to end up being the same.
So if I advanced uh, this unit and this unit, then I'd have to put them in the same formation.
Reading this is on page 29 at the very bottom. So I'm going to read it and let's see what we think.
Keep their
Advancing
formation.
units
Yeah.
keep their formation, but may choose any facing. If the charging units have different formations, attacking from 2 different hexes, the player of the advancing units must decide which units to advance. As infantry units in the game hex must have the same facing and formation, the owning player must decide which units advance into the vacated hex. To me, that means that because they're not in the same formation, they may not both enter the hex.
Right. So these two, because they're in line, they could, but
Yes,
if I advance the guy that's in column, then those guys can't because they're in line.
right. But you could move both of those line units in and adjust the facing because you can choose any facing.
Okay.
So that might be the better move. Or might not. It's up to you.
Yeah, I don't. So I mean, this guy was there. So then
Mm-hmm.
these guys would be here potentially, and
Mm-hmm.
then they would have a. Well, let's go ahead and
You can
turn
choose
them
any facing.
first. Right. And then we can turn them. Oops. Come on. Let me. So cool. Then we'll try this. There we
Yeah.
go. That's exciting.
That to me conforms with page 29.
Okay. Cool. All right. So that takes care of that chit. And now I did not place the little green cube on my chart. So I've got to take that off the bucket and put it there for the 8th division for the first activation. Okay. All right. So
Persists.
now I've done that. All right. Cool. All right. So that's it. We've got some more cubes in the bag. I'll go and grab the next one. It is another Russian one. Okay.
Dang it.
So, um,
Put it on your army card. Pick a division.
okay. Okay. Let me pull it up and drop it somewhere. Okay. So we could now do the second activation for the 18th, for the 8th Division.
And now you're at -1 movement.
Right. Cool. All right. So now we can have some fun, I guess. This is where we get our revenge. And so it doesn't seem to make any sense to be in line attacking. Right, because there's no modifier. I mean, there is a
It's negative.
detrimental modifier for
A
being in.
malice.
Yeah, a malice. I'm going to start using that now all the time.
But it's the opposite of bonus,
Yeah,
bonum being good, malum being bad.
right.
I love it. It's a word I want to keep.
Yeah, no, that is a keeper indeed. So let's see. So then the next target for the day would be these poor sods over here. And so we can go there with those chaps. Like that. And these guys here could change formation. So that's going to be 1. And then they can turn 1 for free, did you say?
Yeah, 1 for free. And
Okay.
then 1 buys you the rest of the spaces. So
And then
1 lets you kind of
2,
spin.
3. They're over there then.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. And we can't prolong. I'm so fond of prolonging.
I agree.
All
You got
right.
you got your musketeers right in front of my unit. You might want to change those to column 2 if you're going to attack with them.
Which one? These ones here?
Yeah, if
So,
they're going to, or you may have a plan. I don't want to interrupt your plan.
well, no, I'm trying to figure that. Like I know that they're attacking up the hill, but it's only if everyone's attacking up the hill or attacking down the hill that you get the modifier, right?
That is correct, and that's an important point. Most of the modifiers are additive based on the unit itself, but when it's uphill or downhill, then all of them have to be going uphill or all of them have to be downhill to take the bonus. So it doesn't count as going uphill. Did I say something different? No, that's what it is. You
No,
don't
no,
count as.
that's what I wanted to check. And we don't have, um, for want of a better word, we don't have refused flanks. So this unit that's in line, this is a flank and this is a flank, even though he's got another guy here next to him.
Yeah,
That's okay. Yeah, because I'm used to with like most of La Bataille, we have the idea, and even with Battles of the Age of Reason, you have this idea of like a hooked flank or whatever. So you're just not hanging out there. But in this one, it's hanging out there, and there doesn't seem to be any way that you could protect it unless you're all lined up along the same hex row, right?
yeah.
I
Again, it's
mean,
an abstraction.
so if I were to turn this guy this way, then this is it, but then he's got that one open.
Not if you were in a column. So in a column, you can solve that problem with a hanging
Okay.
unit.
So the idea would be then you'd have the guy on the end in column
Yes.
to provide then the cover for everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead
So there's no
and
Frederick the Great Echelon line attack.
no echelon attack there. That's our favorite thing to do. All right. Let's see here. So we'll take one of these guys. Oh, come on, work with me. Split it up. And we'll put him there in column on the end, so that way he still counts. And yeah, I think we're okay for the moment. Although we got this whole attacking downhill thing, which is a new thing for me. That I did not notice that on the combat charts before. So that makes being here or here problematic.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
But it also reduces the distance that anybody can see you. So again, I would almost consider that not a benefit because you really want to see farther. Because right now, cavalry can get right up to you.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, okay. So this guy is going to fade back. So he's in column. So he can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's over there. Okay. And I think that's it. So I'm going to have these 4 hexes attack that hex right there.
So the first thing I'm going to do is defensive fire here, hello,
Okay.
and there. So it's 1 point each. So I'm just going to roll the dice. Neither one of them matters.
Okay. All right. And so then I've got 10, 18, 18 plus another 7. That's going to be 25. I've got 30, and you've got 19. So we're at one and a
2 to 1.
half to 1. So
But you're
you're saying that
over one
rolls
and a
up.
half to 1.
So
You're
does
over 1 to 1. So you go up to 2 to 1.
so 2 to 1. Okay. So there's a -1. Um, you're not elite, green, Russian, blah blah blah. Charge for more than 1 hex. So that's another -1. Charge through the rear, that's a -2. So you're at -4 thus far. Infantry in line assaulted by infantry in column. Okay, so this is then where you'd want to have the 2 of them. You'd want to be either attacking all in column or all in line, because right now, because I'm doing it in a mix, you would get that +1 benefit, correct?
That's the way I read it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then it's a -3 thus far, and that's it. Then we go to mine. I do have an elite unit that's involved, so that's going to be another -1. So we're at -4. Um, I didn't take any fires, so I think it's just a -4.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we go ahead and roll and see what we get. 7 -4 is going to be a 3, so that is going to be a failure.
That's going to hurt. So I need to move to the southwest generally. So the first thing I need to do is move away from the units that did this. So I'm going to have to push this unit aside. So I'm going to push that because I can't enter this hex
Right.
because the wrong direction and because, yeah, it doesn't get me further from him. This is the closest I can get. So now because I'm moving in your, oh, I didn't take my losses. Right, so that's both of these, and they take a support loss, a strength point. Now they've moved into another hex. They take another strength point loss. Then I'm going to have to move out here and take another strength point loss. And then that makes me, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, well, it better be here 5 and then 6. So you don't want to get closer to anything. So
Right.
that's it. And a bad loss, but I left myself hanging.
Right. Okay. So then now I need to advance into that. And let's see what I can do. So I've got these 2 in column that can go, and I could split the other people in one way or the other. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll have these 2 guys come in, and then we'll just go ahead and change their facing a little bit like that, I guess. Yeah. I mean, could you move these guys? I mean, provided you have an activation cube, can you move from there to there? Or
Yes,
okay,
that's
so I don't
that's
have any zones of influence in that regard.
well, you
Oh, you would get
you
I'd get opportunity fire at you, right, as you
get
moved.
opportunity fire,
Okay.
and you can always
You want?
then I would have to I can there's a minimum 1 hex move, but I'd have to double check. You may not be able to move from one zone of influence to another one. Let me just
Okay.
check that. Hold on. I may have something here, so let me go where you are. Nope. Okay. So we're going to do not there. It doesn't say specifically. Oh, wait, let me keep going. Okay, on page 23, this is a 1.4 rule, but it's still slightly ambiguous. It says a unit has to stop when entering a hex adjacent to an enemy unit and can't change its formation after entering the hex adjacent to the enemy unit. Now, it
Okay.
doesn't say that I can't move from unit to unit. It just means that I have to stop. So I
Okay.
would think that if I made the move there, I would complete my movement. There would be nothing else.
Right. Right. Okay. Then I think I'll leave these guys where they were at. And I'm going to bring these guys up instead, and we'll just turn them slightly. I have one more potential activation with these guys, so I can get them in some better position before the turn ends.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
All right.
All right, so we go
So
back to the. How are you for time? We've been at this for 2 hours.
I'm good. I'd like to continue as long as you want to.
Okay, cool. Let's do another one. I don't have to. Normally, I teach on Friday nights. I teach fencing, and so I'd have to cut out at some point in time. But I'm game is and people are still watching. We have 5 people watching it, so we will keep
I
our.
have to put animals away because, as I said, I live on a farm. But my wife often does that on her own when I'm doing this. So she will be back and she'll let me know if she needs help. So it may be kind of loud, but she'll let me know.
Okay. Well, no worries. So we just got a blue cube, so it is a French activation.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to bring that off and bring in the First Dragoon Division.
All
Okay,
right.
so let me get my order of battle. First Dragoons. This is the Baby Dragoon Division.
It's only got what, four
4 regiments, and
regiments.
one is small.
Okay. Grouchy's got 4 regiments, but they're good size regiments, and he's got a set of horse guns. It looks like, and then the hot pole's got the cuirassiers and a set of horse guns too. Cool.
Yeah. All right, so here we go. We're going to bring in Klein and go. That's one within 10 hexes of that road. So 1, 2, 3,
Okay, so
4.
stop. So stop, right? Because once you're within 4 of me, I have an option to form square, right?
You do
Yeah.
automatically.
So, yep. So that's what I'm going to do. So add square marker. Oh, I don't like that one.
Yep. Then you use the other one, which
Oh
is the square.
no, I deleted everybody.
Undo. There we go.
All right. So where's the little baby square marker?
Kind of towards the bottom of your right click menu.
Square layer. Okay, that's what it was. Okay. Square layer. Cool. Who's next? All right. So you've moved that. You can carry on with your movement, I guess.
Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. This guy's now at a range of 4, right? And this guy's
Right.
now at a range of 4. So they'll form square. There we go.
Right. 5,
Mm-hmm.
6.
All right. This guy's at a range of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
But he doesn't have a line of sight.
Oh,
Actually, he
okay.
does. He's right in the, it's exactly in the middle.
Okay.
So technically that's a line of sight.
All right. So I don't have. Okay. So I have to put this guy on top. There we go.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You move 6,
7.
7. Okay.
And this one's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Got to get them there all right. Spacing. 5, 6, 7. Now you have to take a check at if you want to form a square, you have to take a check for forming a square. And if you fail it, then you have
I take a
um,
loss. But doesn't it
right
cost you 1 to enter? Doesn't it cost
one,
you an extra movement
two.
point to move there?
Oh, it does. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So now you can't see, so you can't make a square.
Yeah. But you can attack me, so
But
same
I can't attack.
difference. Yeah.
There we go. That's it. Pull another
Okay.
one.
Exciting stuff.
So I'll pull this one, and we have a green.
It's a green one. Okay. So it's 1 for the good guys. All right.
Got
So,
stuck here for a moment. Sorry.
all right. So now, um, so now I have a choice. I could activate the 8th Division for their final option, or I could activate Bagavoo's group. Now, Bagavoo, what did he have? What order did he have? He's under defend. So, what does a defend order do? Defend. Um, Only move 1 hex. May not be adjacent to the enemy. Okay. Well, you better be aware of your like, I guess, if you do that. So that's not a very practical order for him. Although if I gave him that order, these guys could pull back 1. Um,
It's actually an exceedingly good order for Bakavoo and a bad one at the same time. It's a
yeah.
good one. If I try and get the city, then I got to pay an extra +2 every
Right.
time I'm in -2 in combat, which
Right.
is nasty.
So, and then can the cavalry attack stuff that's in the general order that's in the town or in the woods?
No, the
Okay, they
cavalry
can't.
can't
Okay.
attack it, nor can it enter the town except by road, and by road it can't fire, can't fight.
Right. Okay. Interesting. All right. So if I do this one here with these guys, I could form square with them potentially, um, which would potentially solve my problem. Um, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead. We'll activate Bagavoo. Let's go find the bag of goodies and grab that and drop that there. And then we will activate Bagavoo. I was hoping that the defend had more stuff to do, so I could. But as it is, I can't move the cavalry very much.
That's the bad part of it. Yeah,
Yeah,
the I go back and forth with Bagavoo in this scenario all the time because I really want to be able to free up my cavalry, but if I free up my cavalry, then I don't get the extra defense for the infantry.
right, right. Now, if I'm in the town, my fire value is greatly reduced. Right, I think it's only 2
It's 2,
points
just like a
out.
column.
Okay. Um, And then but if I'm in square, it's also just 2, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So then it's just a matter of positioning. Do I want to be there or do I want to be in the town? Um, I don't have to worry about you attacking me with your infantry this turn. And we're not playing where, I mean, we're drawing all the cubes, right?
Yep.
Okay, so it's not like with the grand battle where if there's 2 cubes that are still left in the bag. Okay, so we'll all get a chance to do something exciting.
Yeah,
Okay,
that the last two in the bag is the battle scenario only.
okay. So I think I'll have this guy go um, into square, and then the cavalry are not in line, or they're always in column, right?
Yeah, there's no differentiation.
Right.
They're just cavalry.
Okay. So these guys can go, um, I guess, 1, right? And
Uh-huh.
and then these guys can do the same thing, and they can go there too. Okay, we can start to send some of our brilliant Polish cavalry over there to save the day.
They're
Okay,
actually pretty useful. They're relatively big regiments, and that +2 lance bonus is nice in some cases.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I think that takes care of things for Mr. Bagavoo. So we go
All right.
back up to the bag of excitement.
So I'll pull one out, and it's a red, so we get a
Oh, it's the
mutual
fire.
fire.
Okay, so we get to shoot at each other.
Okay. So you have some things that can shoot.
I do. So I know I've got some artillery set up. I just don't know. So I guess these guys here have a line of sight to that guy there.
Um, you know, the way I play line of sight is that if you have to be on the edge for the guy on the bottom to see the guy on top. But the rules say if it's halfway between the two, it's not obstructed.
Okay.
So let me
Yeah,
just
I know if you were 1 hex further back, I know you wouldn't be able to see me because you'd be further away from the obstruction than I am. Um,
yeah, but
so
this
and
also
that's
this
yeah,
also presupposes that the the hills keep going up, right? And
right.
maybe they don't, because
Yeah,
if they were kind of flat, then I would be on a plateau looking over you, and we wouldn't see you.
right.
So
Yeah.
I'm just going to look up LOS here real quick and look for. Of course, losing comes up a lot here, which is not what we're looking for. But
I know they had a diagram somewhere. Oh, here we go. Line of sight.
yeah,
So
they
it's
do.
number 22. If the
Page
target is on
22.
a lower elevation, the line of sight is blocked if the blocking feature is closer to the target. So we're equidistant. Wait, oh, so if the target's on a higher elevation, which is what you are, the line of sight is blocked if the blocking feature is closer to the firing unit. So because we're equidistant, so if you were 1 hex back, I couldn't see you, but where you're at right now, we're equidistant. So therefore, I have a line of sight on you.
Yeah, my World War II gaming says that no, because I'm on that slope. I'm not necessarily on another kind of a higher level hill behind it, but it doesn't make that differentiation. So we
Yeah.
got to say that you have fire. You have line of fire.
Okay. So if we go to the fire stuff, you are, and we're counting the the distance between us,
Hmm.
right? So, but we're not counting. So we're just counting this hex and this hex. Are we counting the hex that we're starting in?
Yeah, well, you count one of them. So this is the distance here is 1, 2, 3.
So why do they have adjacent instead of saying 1 hex away? Oh, I mean, yeah, no. So I
Wargaming.
guess so. If you were here, then that's 1, 2 away. Okay, now
Yeah.
I see what they do. Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so then it's going to be times 2. So I've got 4 increments there. Times 2 is going to be 8. And then we take a look at modifiers. So you are are you in column? How do they define that?
This is an ambiguity. It should say firing on infantry in square and infantry in column. It doesn't.
Okay. Okay. So let me make a little note on my thing. Infantry. All right. Do they have anything for firing on cavalry? I mean, cavalry were
There's
big
no,
fat targets.
they're not, they don't have anything here.
Okay.
There's
Cool.
fewer cavalry too. They're 50 instead of 100. So
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it's the same for La Bataille, but
yeah.
but even then, that's a small. That's just 200 guys on horses, so they're not a big target. Okay, so based on that, so we're 8, no pluses, no minuses. So we just go ahead and roll the dice and see what we get. An 8 at 8 is a single hit.
All right.
Okay. The guy that I have in square can't do anything. This guy over here can fire there. So that's going to be
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4 hexes away.
exactly.
Okay. So that's going to be times 1. So that's going to be 4. But he is heavy artillery. So I guess he gets a +1 just because his
Yep.
cannonballs weigh more than anybody else. So we go
That
ahead
is
and roll and see what we get there. That's going to be a 9. And that's good enough for 1 hit on the first, what was that, the 4th Dragoons?
yep. Yes.
Bing.
Fourth Dragoons, First Dragoon Division, and that is the Fourth Regiment, First Division. Fourth Regiment, First Division.
Okay. So now we go over to you. What are,
Yeah. This is the place where you add smoke markers, but
oh, okay. We never bothered with that before, but
you don't need to. You don't need to.
yeah, because it's small enough we can keep track of it. But that's kind of cool. I know I didn't even bother punching out the smoke counters, when I played it. We just we had like an extra little red cube, and we just kind of moved that down the line. So we each had a
Yeah,
little red cube on our side, and we kind of went down the line, seeing
that sounds
who's firing, and we started at one end of the battlefield and worked our way to the other. So that worked out well for us. Okay, so you've got some artillery. I don't know. Do you have a line of sight on me? What's the firing
I do
for your
not.
artillery?
I do not. I do not. My line of sight goes right down here.
Oh, okay. All right.
So you
So,
moved out my carefully, cunningly laid trap. Thank you very much.
well, the same thing happened over here where you had a unit there that got pushed out, and so now I didn't have a chance to shoot him. But I guess these guys can all exchange fire, right?
They all can, yeah.
Okay. So why don't you go ahead? You've got your guys in column, so they're with 2 points.
They're two
So two
points, and I'm
times
going to
two,
fire
so
back.
it's 4. No, it's 2 times
No, it's
1. Oh, so it's only 2? Oh,
yeah.
wow. Okay.
So I'm going to
Um,
fire at the grenadiers here,
okay.
and I missed.
That's a miss. All right. So then I've got 4 and 4 times 2. That's going to be 8. That's going to be 16. 16 to that. And so um, it's only the artillery firing on a column that get a benefit.
Actually,
Oh, actually, it
French.
says, oh, French infantry. Oh, okay. So French infantry firing against infantry in column or square gets a benefit. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not applicable in this case, but there is a modifier.
All right. So if I were French, it would be a different story, but I'm just the Russians. So there's no pluses or minuses that I'm aware of, and it's just we're on the 16 chart. Okay, here we go. Let's see what we get. An 8. That's going to be 2 hits. So I guess what? The top unit takes that?
Everything comes off the top.
Okay.
And of course, part of your turn, you can shuffle which one's on top. That's one of your choices.
Right. And that doesn't trigger opportunity fire. It's only if you move out that does. So,
Yes, opportunity fire is exiting a hex.
okay. Cool. All right. I don't think there's anything else, any other fire that can happen. Nobody else is adjacent anywhere yet.
I do not believe so.
Okay. So we go back up to the bin. and we draw something out. So let's see. It's a blue chit, so it's another one for you. Oh, we should probably clear the moved markers off.
Okay, very good. One. Oh, you know what? I need to do this right. Let me just get that cube ready to go.
And these guys now have 2 less movement factors, right? Since it's their second
These now have
activation.
two less.
Okay.
Two less. Two less. All right. Okay, so yep. 1 movement point infantry, artillery, -2 movement points cavalry.
Right.
Yep. So we're going to take that turn, go 1, 2. I always get these wrong. I wish they were counterclockwise and clockwise, you know.
Yeah.
But that's just not a thing, apparently. Okay,
Right.
there we go. 1, 2. This just never stops catching me. Okay. All right, so there we go. So you have defensive fire in 3 hexes.
Oh, you're attacking me?
I'm attacking you.
So who's attacking whom?
This one, and this one are attacking him here.
Oh, okay. I, for some reason, thought you could only attack one unit with your one regiment. I don't know where I got that idea, but that's what I thought. There was something with that with the cavalry.
You can combine from different attacks as far as I know. Does anybody in the audience know? Let's throw this out to the audience. Let's ask a friend.
Phone a friend. There we go.
Phone a friend.
Let's see. Oh, so maybe this is what I was thinking. Infantry and cavalry may not combine to assault or charge.
But 3 cavalry should be able to.
Okay. Yeah. I for whatever reason, I thought it was. Oh, but yeah, I guess you're right. Okay. So I get
I got
defensive
me
fire.
on
Well, I get
hold.
these guys can fire too, right?
I got to put me on hold for 1 quick minute.
Sure. No worries.
Sorry, just a little bit of an operational order here. So we're good. Yeah, so it's your defensive
Okay.
fire.
So, but these guys that aren't involved in it can fire at people that are adjacent, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that
So,
are assaulting. So because this is assaulting, and because this is assaulting, this unit that is not being assaulted but adjacent can fire defensive fire,
okay.
and this unit can fire. It is adjacent. It's a defensive fire.
Okay. Now, is that conducted separately from this guy? Or is it a
Yes.
case where we add it all up? So does this guy
No.
have to fire at all 3?
No, he can. He only has 2 points. That's hard to divide by 3.
Well, but I'm just curious with squares, does he get to fire out of multiple sides of the square?
I've never seen that in the rules. I've never come across that in the forums. I think it's pretty much what the sheet says, which is you get just there it is. It just is two factors. So I think you've only got two, and you got to make that. Yeah, I think it's two factors, two strength points that you can divide by into two of those. So I think you have two shots at one.
Okay. That's, yeah, the reason I ask is that in like bar and la bataille, I would fire at 1/3 or reduced fire value, but I could fire out at like 3 non-adjacent hexes, 3 non-contiguous hexes. So I could fire some stuff there and some stuff there. And if I was surrounded and the enemy were over there, I could fire out 3 times. Um, but
I think you got two and divide it here, but that's a question I'm going to bring up. I think that's a legit question.
yeah, because otherwise it's um,
It really
it does make
minimizes.
sense that I'm only be able to fire out 2. Um, but what would happen? I guess you're right. It would be 2 max. Okay. All right. Well, these guys are only worth 2, and these guys are only worth 2. So we've got. So we'll do the guys that are out on the flank first, I guess.
Technically, they're all just worth two each.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're all square.
Um, and there doesn't seem to be any modifiers that I can tell for shooting at cavalry or anything like that. So, all right, let's go ahead and do this. So for this one here, firing there, an 11 at 2. That is good enough for a hit on
Dang it.
Klein's boys. All right, and then a shot over at those guys, same thing. A 5 is a miss, and then a shot over at those guys. A 3 is a miss. Okay, well, at least we chipped one off.
You did indeed.
Okay, so now it's melee time.
Now it's melee time.
Okay, so now we go to the different chart. So defending unit is, they are elite. So that's, oh, so we do the odds first, right? So I've got 7 increments, and you've got,
17.
yeah, so you're at 2 to 1. So there's a
Well,
-1 for that.
wait a minute. I'm not. I'm at 1 to 1 because this is one of those crazy situations, right? Let me just, maybe I'm wrong, but let me just add it up. So I had 17, I have 17 points, and you have
I've got
7.
7,
The
right?
7 times 2 is
14.
14. Yes, you're over it. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah,
right.
yeah. Yeah. So
2 to 1.
it's 2 to 1. So it's a -1 for that, +1 for
Mhm.
elite. So we're at 0, +1 for being Russian. So we're at a +1. Um, we're not being charged to the flank rear. We're not square against
You are.
that. Square against that. So we have a +4. So we have a +5 so far. Okay, so I'm seeing just a +5. Is that correct? Have I missed anything?
You're right. Now the assaulting charging unit. So I counted +5 also. I
So my
lost an.
but I'm being charged from more than one hex. So does
Oh,
that
right. That,
count?
yes, it does.
Okay, so then it's just a +4. Okay.
That's you're
All
right.
right. And so then we go to your modifiers. So you did lose 1 strength point. So now we're back up to a +5. Are any of your units elite?
No.
Okay, that's nothing with short distance, and you're not against infantry that's not in square. You're not tired. You're not heavy against other. You didn't assault uphill, downhill, obstructed. Okay, so it looks like it's just +5, and then you've got your leader, and your leader adds 2, so it's a +3 on the die roll. A 10 plus 3
Ta-da!
is going to be a 13. So the
I failed
defender
miserably.
holds the position. The attacker takes 1 strength point loss.
Brilliant move.
There you go. It's time to demote. And so then now what? You flip them over to their tired side?
Indeed.
And now the difference is what? The coloration is just a little lighter?
Yeah, it's not the best graphical decision that was made in this game. There ought to be some other indicator, like maybe a black bar or something, but no, that's it. That's what fatigue looks like.
Okay. Yeah, because some of the combat units don't have a movement much faster than 5 anyway. At least some of the
Mhm.
cavalry was pretty pokey. Um, yeah, like the cuirassiers have a movement of 6. So, okay, well, that's interesting. All right, so that then finishes the second activation for the second or for the first Dragoon Division. So we go back up to the bag of goodies, and we've got just one left. Well, actually, we have 2 left, but there's one left now. So that's a Russian one. So now I'm going to just drop that cube there on the map until I bring up. So now I could either do something with the Bagration's forces, or I could do a third activation um, with the 8th Division. Okay.
Mhm.
So with the 8th Division, can my infantry attack your cavalry? So
No,
if I took them out of square and went to attack, you could what, just retreat before combat, or
I don't. I just don't think that infantry can assault cavalry. We've talked about this on the forum before. I do have the ability to evade, but
so cavalry units may always evade by retreating 1 hex if an infantry, or artillery unit is in or adjacent at the beginning of the fire segment. Right. So if when the cube comes up, you could take 1 step back from me. And evading
I'm
cavalry
going to
may
do
not
that.
end. So the evade only looks like it happens during the fire segment. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking at it's 21.5.
Okay, this is not well written. You're right, 21.5. Cavalry units may always evade by retreating 1 hex if an enemy infantry or artillery unit is in an adjacent hex at the beginning of the simultaneous fire segment. That means simultaneous fire. And the next clause is if an enemy infantry unit moves adjacent, which they can't do during the fire phase,
Right.
or if the opposing player declares a charge, which it can't do during the fire phase with an infantry unit, as opposed to declare an assault, right? Which should
Right.
be the same. This is the second amendment of this game, right? This clause here, right here, contradicts the first, right? It says here, the first part says if it's in the simultaneous fire segment, and then the next part outlines 2 cases that can never exist in the simultaneous fire segment.
Right.
So I think it also applies when it's in the movement segment or the assault segment.
Yeah, I would read that too. And this is where not having someone who is editing it who speaks wargame English is where it is. So they
Oh,
should
come on.
have.
All these people speaking English doing the Second Amendment too.
Yeah, no, but I mean, at least from what I heard, the one fella who was doing it, the Carl, who did 1.4, he's French Canadian. So even then, there might be still some language stuff that's going on.
There may be.
Yeah. Okay, so
Right.
evasion doesn't trigger opportunity or reaction. Okay, yeah, no, so that makes sense. Yeah, because I couldn't find anything in the assault in the assault segment that prevented infantry from attacking cavalry. So there's not anything in the assault section 23.
Right. But you
Um,
have to have moved. So if you don't take the square off to assault, then I don't get to evade. So that evasion move only occurs if you go out of square. If you stay in square, then I got to stay where I am, but you can't attack me.
right, because I can't attack you in square.
Yeah.
So you're saying the unit moves. So you're saying that changing formation is the same as the unit moving adjacent?
Well, it's in an adjacent hex, and you're doing a square. You're moving a square. I think that's movement. But again, I'm not 100% sure. When I ask the audience,
At this point, they have been pretty silent. So they've
okay,
either fallen asleep or they're as green to this game as I am, which very well could be the case. So,
let me
okay,
ask you this.
yeah, no, but
Yeah, I
that's fine.
think
But
this is
that's one of the questions because from me looking at it, if I were so say I had an infantry unit, we'll just grab these guys over here, and they come to move up, and they move adjacent from here to there. That's moving adjacent, right? That's
oh
pretty
yeah,
clear. Yeah. Um, but you know, expending movement points adjacent would be one way that you could write it, where you're changing formation from square to line or line to column or whatever. Then that would
uh-huh,
be one way that you could write it there as well. It
yeah.
doesn't really matter to me one way or the other. Um, but I thought it would be fun to chat about. Well,
It is
cool.
fun. It's a question that I have asked before, and the initial response was no. Back in the day, infantry didn't attack cavalry, and it's like everything in the Napoleonic Wars. If you go back and look far enough, you're going to find a case that proves the opposite.
Right.
You know, did did lancers ever help break a square? No, never, not ever. They were totally useless unless it was raining, like at
Right.
Quatre Bras.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it was helpful. So you come into all these like weird situations. I guess there was another one. I don't know if it was Salamanca or someplace down there. Lancers broke a square too, but
Right.
it's pretty right. So the first response required more thought, and I don't think the thought ever came back.
Right.
So we'll just I will poke them and see if they can add that to the list of questions.
Right. Well, one of the other things that came up with us when we were discussing this was, um, you've well, no, I mean that answers itself. So forget about it. Okay, cool. So we're doing then the final activation for the 8th Division. So I will have this guy is going to come out of square. So let's remove the square layer. And when he comes out of square, he's going to come out in column. So that is flipped. So that's he's down 2 movement points because it's his 3rd activation. So he's only got, and then he spent one on changing formation. So he's spent 3 movement points, and he's got 6. Oh wait, and the guy on the bottom still has the square layer on. Okay. All right. So he's going to move there. And we will do an assault with these 3 guys on that guy there.
Okay. So defensive fire, I'm going to fire 2 points here, or 1 point here, and 1 point there.
Okay, cool.
So neither work.
Okay.
So defensive fire is over.
All right. So I've got 10, 22, and you've got
And
19. So it's a 1-to-1. So there's no pluses or minuses on that. Defending unit, charge for more than 1 hex. So that's a -1. You're not being charged through the flank or the rear. I guess you've got some guys in line attacking you, so that's a +1. So that equals out. We're at 0 so far.
mhm.
That's it. Then we look at the other one. I didn't suffer any fire losses. I do have an elite formation attacking you, so that's a -1. Yeah, so that's it. So it's just a -1 altogether.
Right. And the hill doesn't count because not everybody's in the same
Right, not
altitude.
everyone's attacking up the slope.
Right.
Okay, cool. Here we go.
Or -1.
A 9. So that's going to be an 8. So an 8 is a tie where the defender holds a position and both of us take 1 SP loss. All right, so I will take it off of that guy there.
And that is it.
That is it in a nutshell. Okay, so we go back to the bag, and without being able to see who's used what so far. Oh, I forgot to put mine on my thing.
Oh, green. Hey, that might be a problem. You should have 5 and I should have 6. And I used,
So I
where's my,
so I only have 4 on my board right now.
grab it, grab it, grab it.
Okay. So that gives me then 5. And then you have 6, and then there's the fire cube.
Right.
Okay.
So I have only used 4. Wait a minute here. I've only used 5 activation cubes. So I think technically I should have another one after this. There is a small bug in this with the cubes and the French army, so it might fall that way. It's going to get fixed.
Yeah, because
So
you
go ahead
did
and do your
3 for your infantry, and you've only done
2.
2 for your so there should be 1 left.
Should be one less. So we'll worry about that after you do yours.
Oh, well, because you did take 1 out at the very beginning for initiative.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to activate Bagavoo. So let's go ahead and rearrange the chairs, the deck chairs on the Titanic over here. We will keep creeping our cavalry around the corner. And we'll have this guy come out. Let's go ahead and remove the square layer. We'll move these guys back into the town. And that is the extent of it.
Well, I don't really want my extra activation, so I'm going to go ahead and
You
say
could just
let's.
pass, can't you?
Technically, I think you're supposed to draw the cube and then put it on something and then pass and not move with it. You're never required to move.
Okay.
So we'll just assume that's all done.
Okay.
So we go down and we change the turn track on the map down
All
at the
right.
bottom.
Let me go down there. Okay. So did you advance it?
Yeah, advance it one.
Okay. So where are we at? What is it? We're at 2 o'clock in the afternoon now. So we did the 1
Yep.
o'clock turn?
We maybe we didn't have it set right to begin with. Okay, let me just double check that. Right. Check.
The game starts at 2 p.m. and lasts to the 6 p.m. turn.
Well, it's 2 p.m. So it would go to the 3 p.m.
The 3 p.m. turn, okay. We don't have to worry about the weather.
Yep.
There was, I thought I saw something where there was a start new turn button. What does that do? Does that automatically advance it?
No, if you click up on this guy where this goes 2, 3, 4,
Yep.
that's just a turn tracker. And it's start new turn, and it just goes through the different steps that you can go through.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it doesn't actually do anything.
It doesn't actually do anything. It's just for you to know where you are, especially if you're playing solo and you walk away from the computer or something.
Okay. All right, cool.
It's not super functional.
All right. So we got through an entire turn and nobody pulled their hair out.
which is a good thing for both of us,
We did
probably.
have a few questionable things like what can happen here or there, but we did clarify that infantry cannot. Well, they can attack, I guess, the cavalry if the cavalry is willing to stand there. Um, so you could say that infantry can attack cavalry, but cavalry has the option to evade. So it could be the sort of thing that if you wanted to, or if there was some situation and you couldn't retreat your cavalry because it might expose your artillery or who knows what, then your cavalry would have to fight the infantry,
Yep.
whether they like it or not. So it's just
Yep.
an option to do that. Okay,
Yeah, and
cool.
you could, let's think of another reason. If you're infantry, if you're cavalry, um, if you're in a position of extremis, you could want to force that because having to retreat your cavalry would not be terrible, but the possibility that you could get a loss off of the attacker, I mean, that might be worth it to do too. I don't know. I could
Oh
just,
yeah, that's an idea too. Yeah, yeah.
the
So
trick is, again, just like La Bataille, is to try and get cavalry within 2 hexes, an artillery that can fire, and an infantry that's attacking. So the cavalry pushes the enemy infantry into a square, the artillery fires, and then the infantry attacks. So it's you can do good things like that. You can do planned, you know, called gamey things, but
right.
really planned kinds of
No,
tactics.
you should have the sort of combined arms, right? I mean, this is what
Yes.
it's all about. So
Mhm.
what was interesting for me was, you know, being able to get for basically I got uh, those two Russian turns in a row, which allowed me to roll up that French line.
Yes.
And so that's something I'm not used to. I'm used to, okay, I drew the activation chit, my guy got to move, but now he can't do anything more until the next turn. I'd have to bring in another division to kind of
Yep.
exploit whatever it is. In this particular case, just like you got, I think, two chits in a row or three chits in a row with your guys, so they were able to like hit me,
Three.
roll. Yeah, you got three in a row, so you were able to boom, knock out my initial sort of. Well, actually, the first one the guy actually stood, so I guess it was then the next turn you pushed him back, and then the third turn is when you dealt me a blow and kind of blew out that section of the line.
Yeah.
Um,
It, and I really, that's part of the system that I really like here because it is unpredictable. And you can get the same division moving 3 times in a row. And you feel like that's a little bit unfair, but it's like, no, these guys are just, they're pumping their feet, they're moving fast. They've got leaders that are pushing them on. And there's some intangible that the opponent is not picking up on to not have the initiative at that spot.
right.
I think it's really a good system, and contributes enough to really um, help out. I think it makes it a fun system. There's a lot here that I really, really like.
Yeah. No, I can see that. And it's nice to play with someone who's got some experience with it, because otherwise, like as you saw with the live stream I did with Michael, we probably
Yeah,
spent well over half of it just flipping through the rules trying to find, okay, can we do this? Can we do this? What does that mean? And so
yeah,
we were able to actually kind of play the game and have some combat, some back and forth. And I think we had
yep.
a chance to get a little bit of everything involved. The artillery got to fire. We had some infantry assaults. We had some cavalry assaults. So it was a chance to kind of test it. I'm going to save the game so we can,
I would like that.
figure out a time then we can play and kind of keep pressing on with scenario.
If
Um,
you'd like to do that, I would very much like to do that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. No,
your
I'd love to.
your setup coming from Labatai has absolutely changed the tactics that I have to use. This checkerboard system is different than I've played with anybody else, and it's very good. The When you were playing with Michael, you totally missed the Cossack rules, and I was like, no, no, look at the Cossack rules, of course, but it was 9 days after you played, so it didn't help. Um, so there were a number of things that were really interesting to watch. Also, when you guys were trying to figure out how the module worked, that's really my area. That's what I need to be watching. So I actually took lots of notes, and I'm going to bring those up, and hopefully we'll solve those or make them clearer in the next versions of the modules, assuming I keep working on them, and I have no reason to believe that I
Yeah.
will not.
Well,
So
what would be cool is, I know that you're trying to develop your channel, but one thing that you could do would be a tutorial for how to use this Vassal module. So you could
I
talk
did, and
about
I
here's the different commands, and then here's different options for marking losses, and here's this for command rules. I mean, there's lots of cool features here. But yeah,
Mhm.
if you had like a little tutorial on this is how you do this, this is how you do that. I think that would be a great resource for people. And then you put that up on BGG and Facebook and whatnot. And then
I
that's going to
did
help
have.
drive people. Oh, you did? Okay.
But I deleted it.
Oh,
But this is for everybody in the audience. This is the sausage makers chat. Um, I did that. I deleted it because it wasn't really great. And what I found is people won't view my videos usually more than 5 or 6 minutes. So I think what I want to do is I want to redo it, and I want to do just the buttons across the top, and then do just the right click menu, and then some of the other stuff, but really kind of focus on a couple of short how-tos, and then do a solo playthrough of maybe this scenario or another and talk through every move. But I really like getting the chance to play with somebody. I have played now 5 different people on this scenario, and every one of you does it differently. I can't rely on my previous experience. It's really disheartening because it's like I'm going to crush this guy, and it just never happens.
right.
The combination of everybody coming in and doing something different, or somebody deciding that they're coming in the road off of Freiheit instead of the road down to the southwest, or somebody bringing in, swinging around with the cavalry. It's a, so far it's been totally different every single game.
Yeah.
My toughest opponent though is Kenneth, who's watching this or was watching it.
Right. Well, what's interesting is that, Brennan and I, and Brennan plays the vassal game of Moscow with us, and he's done some others with us over the course of the last year or so. Um, but he and I do the tactic talks, and so we're actually looking explicitly at real battlefield tactics from the Napoleonic era, and then how does that translate into how you set up stuff in the game? And
Yep,
so obviously we've been the checkerboard stuff like that. That is standard Napoleonics from Napoleonic 101. And
yep,
so we use that in La Bataille, and I'm just like, well, I'm going to use this here. And Uwe had even commented that that's how you should do it because that's one of the reasons why he's got this rule where the guy next to you bugs out. Now you might be shaken, and so therefore it kind of forces you to adopt the um, checkerboard deployment, so that way you don't have your guys, where you have like a Frederick the Great kind of line, and you get a punch through the line, and now suddenly people are breaking on all sides, type of a thing. So that's why when I set stuff up, I tried to explicitly have the checkerboard type of setup to deal with that. So
yeah. Well, I've definitely felt that you need to have good retreat paths, but you're right. If you're not adjacent to somebody, you're not going to take that stand check.
yeah,
And
and the stand
even
check used to be worse in the first rules because the ones that came in the box, you you fail your the guy bugs out next to you, you fail your stand, then because you failed your stand, the guy next to you has to make a stand check, and so on. You could have the entire line break. It was like a cascade. And
Mhm.
so I said something to Uwe. I'm like, this doesn't seem historical. And he's like, well, you should put a break in the line. And then I'm like, okay, but even then. And so that's when they changed it so that what was triggering the stand check was just someone who failed either a fire check or an assault, as
Yeah,
opposed to
and
just
that's
failing anything.
That's the way it should be. The stand check shouldn't initiate another stand check.
Yeah, but that's that the original rules that came in the box. That
I
they
know,
did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so
I
that's
know,
why it
I
was
know.
just like, okay, this is broken.
Have you read have you read The Ghosts of Cannae?
No.
That's actually it must have been published in the first part of the century, maybe even late 90s. But that's actually used in the war colleges. Um, it talks about the Roman Republican army,
Right.
and they would alternate maniples. So they were doing the checkerboard thing,
Yep.
and as Romans do, precisely
Yeah.
because they don't do anything imprecisely. And they were doing exactly that so that people could move up between two maniples or across or whatever they needed to do.
Right.
And if they were attacked on a flank of a maniple, the maniple adjacent could attack the rear of the people that were attacking the first maniple. It gave a whole bunch of support for the legionnaires. So it's not a new technique,
Right.
but I haven't seen it here, and I didn't have Uwe's advice.
Yeah. Cool. Well, very good. Well, Matt, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this, and hopefully all the viewers out there have enjoyed it as well.
Yep.
We're going to try to do this on a more regular basis so we can tease out the rules a little bit more, kind of figure out how to, apply those tactics that work in La Bataille. They should work in this game too because it's battalion level. And so far, they look like they are working to a certain extent. And the same thing with all the other kind of combined arms. So this was terrific. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so
And
much. I had
yeah,
a great time.
yep. And to all of our friends out there in the wider universe, uh, be well, and we'll see you in the next episode.